Initiating moisture.
It's the moist meter, you fucking pussy. And you know what? We're not afraid of a little horror game, so today we're looking at Resident Evil 2's remake. And this remake absolutely puts to shame all other remakes that have come before it from other video game developers trying to cash in on older games with their really shittily done, lazily put together remakes, remixes, reignitions, 2.5s, re-envisions, director cut, all that bullshit where the only difference is the graphics were improved by maybe one extra polygon in one tiny frame of one of the main characters' penises. What I'm saying is everything that you thought you knew about redos of old games in the modern age, you know, like the HD remixes and shit, just throw that in the shitter. It's completely useless when it comes to Resident Evil 2's remakes, because everything before this one was so lazily done in comparison and such a waste of time that it's just a joke to even put them on the same playing field as Resident Evil 2's remake. This game is spectacular, a truly ground-up redo of Resident Evil 2, and it's absolutely beautiful graphically. It's beautiful from an acting perspective, except for a couple of characters. There's still some really campy dialogue and some mediocre performances, to be generous. But it is so fucking fresh. This feels like a brand new game that if you didn't play the previous one, you would think just was completely fresh from the top. It's a great game. I really like that you could almost feel the passion ooze out of the orifices of the game. It felt like they knew exactly what they wanted to do and what the original game was about, capturing some good horror elements, some very disturbing scenes, some great gore, really impressive work just across the board. I think the level design was obviously good because, you know, back then you had to rely on really well done levels in order to make the game last longer. You couldn't just rely on just making the level and the playing field super big with thousands of enemies ham-fisted into it, because back then the hardware couldn't handle that kind of shit. So I like the old school level design where everything really connects and it's filled with a lot of interesting stuff and some little hidden things that you may miss or may not if you're really a completionist. I do have a complaint though. I don't think the puzzles are always that great. Some of them I think are well designed. I think they're fun to tackle. But take, for example, Zelda. In Zelda, the puzzle has multiple solutions in certain cases in Breath of the Wild. And the puzzle really is, here's a challenge, now it's up to you to solve it. In Resident Evil 2, that's not the case. The puzzle is, I don't know, here's a fucking locked toy chest with the key to escape the scary building. But you need to find the toy hammer, which was in the East Wing room on the north side of the police station and hidden within a condom that was in the bottom left of that room right next to two boxes that were really dimly lit. So it just becomes a scavenger hunt to find what you need to put in some place. Not every puzzle is actually about figuring out the solution, it's about just exploring and finding what you needed for it, and I don't really care for that scavenger hunt type of puzzle solving. I think that's just tedious for the sake of tedium. So, but not all puzzles are like that, but a good bit of them are, which is a bit frustrating. Now, one thing I know a lot of people have complained about, but I don't necessarily think of it as a bad thing, is the zombies are bullet sponges. That was their solution to making zombies scary. And I don't think zombies should be a pushover at all. Like, zombies are the main antagonist. That shit shouldn't just be something you brush by like, oh, it's a zombie, no big deal. You can't just fart near them and have them explode. They need to be imposing and you need to not want to fight them. But I do understand them becoming a bit of a nuisance because they are huge fucking bullet sponges. It's like shooting a goddamn fucking SWAT truck. It's like shooting an armored vehicle because they take so many shots to bring down. You never want to actually finish off a zombie with bullets because even just the most basic zombie, like a zombie Girl Scout, takes an entire gun store's worth of ammo to bring down. You'll be out of ammo for the next boss battle. So instead what you do is you rely on either stunning or turning them into crawlers. My complaint is with the stunning. I do have a complaint there. The stunning mechanic seems super inconsistent. Sometimes you'll take out your pistol, pop one in the head, they'll stun them, and then you'll be able to squeak right by them, no problem, even give them a little pat on the ass, tell them good game as you go by. There's no issue there. But sometimes it'll take 3 or 4 shots from that same pistol on the same type of zombie to make the motherfucker even blink. So it seems very inconsistent with what it takes to actually stun a zombie, at least in my experience. The more reliable method is to shoot them in the kneecap and turn them into crawlers, which then also still takes like 2 to 4 bullets depending on your aim and depending on the zombie, which is a lot more manageable than the 800 it takes to actually fucking kill one. Now, the last complaint I have about the game is I don't like the playthroughs after the initial Leon and Claire playthrough, because then you're just repeating the same puzzles with such minuscule differences between them, it seems completely worthless. You get a little bit of extra canon, but that's it. It's like 2 or 3 different lines between the playthroughs. So you do Leon A, you do Claire B, that's how I did it, and you get basically everything. There's only trivial differences and a little bits of extra canon in the other playthroughs. It's probably worth just looking that up instead of doing the same fucking set of puzzles again, because that's just not fun for me. I didn't enjoy backtracking the exact same landscape as Claire that I did as Leon, solving the same puzzles just with a slightly different solution to the puzzle being like one different number. That wasn't extremely fun, but I did like Claire's story a bit better than Leon's. So it's worth it for the story to go through it at least one more time and then maybe just YouTube the other 2 differences. But overall, it's just a great game. It's extremely fun, it feels great, and I really like games like these that deliver an old school experience, that tell a fun story. It has some cheesy dialogue that it shamelessly acts. I enjoyed everything about it. It was thrilling, it did great with the gore, the horror elements, and it did keep it pretty tense. When you saw a horde of zombies, you're like, fuck, how am I gonna get by this without wasting all of my ammo? You're going through the sewers, fuck, it's one of those shit demons that's gonna poison me. Do I have blue herbs to take care of this? It's really just an enjoyable game that I had a lot of fun doing. The 4th survivor mode was a nice little cherry on top, with the tofu mode being a beautiful little hand job. It was just a nice little added bonus, a happy ending. Overall, fun game, great experience. Let's plug this shit into the moist meter. Resident Evil 2 Remake is getting an 85%. I can't recommend this enough, and I really hope it sets the precedent for upcoming remakes of older properties, because this is the kind of shit I would love to see. Classic titles completely revisited, revamped for the modern age, because it just works super well. This game is fucking great, and I enjoyed almost every second of it. That's it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Nostalgia comes in many forms. Maybe you think back on grandma's old special grilled cheese recipe and get a semi-chub. Maybe you're like me and remember supersized options from McDonald's before they phased it out due to causing hearts to explode. Point being, nostalgia's fucking powerful, and nothing is more nostalgic for me than the original Luigi's Mansion. I still remember the Christmas I got it on the GameCube. Just an outright great game that still holds up well today, and I'm super excited to say the newest Luigi's Mansion 3, is just as good and in some cases even better than the original. So let's dive the fuck in. The thing I like most about the new Luigi's Mansion is that they have it as a hotel instead of a mansion, which let them do each floor its own unique theme. In the original Luigi's Mansion, each room would have a different theme or purpose, you know, a fitness room, a ballroom, whereas in the hotel, each floor is dedicated to it, the entire floor, so every room follows the theme. For example, there's an entire room or floor that's dedicated to just being a full-blown movie studio that has you with a really cool boss battle at the end on camera. Another floor has you entering an LA Fitness, where you can go in the locker room and find used needles where the synthol was used. Each floor just becomes its own entirely different adventure with a really good boss at the end. The bosses in this game are super fun. They each have different mechanics, some better than others, and there is one boss in particular I find to be a bit tedious for the sake of tedium. It's a cat that you have to chase through multiple floors doing the exact same mechanic to 6 times. And I just think that's a bit excessive. Not that it's a bad fight, but it doesn't change. You're just hunting it across these floors. And so I didn't care for that boss, but every other one, for the most part, was a really memorable and enjoyable boss that not only looked good, but had some fun mechanics to play with. And it really is the strongest part about this game, just all of the different places you go and how great they look and how great the boss at the end is. You go to a floor and it takes you to a fucking pirate ship, you summon the Black Pearl and fight its captain. So it's not restricted to just being rooms in a hotel or, you know, themed around something indoors. It has you going all over the place and doing all kinds of crazy shit, which was a lot of fun. Now I'm going to get to a complaint now, because some of the boss fights were made hard, not because they were a hard boss, but because the controls betray you. The controls have a mind of their own, and they're constantly trying to fight you for their independence. When you're trying to aim something like the plunger is something where you can fire it sticks to a surface, you suck it up, and you pull something off. When you're trying to aim that plunger, the controls just don't really work. They don't lock on to what you need them to, and they'll have you spinning all over the place, and this is where the camera angle kind of fucks you as well, because you can't really tell where you are in space or exactly where you're aiming, so then you just get confused. You end up firing the plunger straight behind you or throwing it out your own asshole, so it doesn't really go where you need it to during a boss fight, which became painfully tedious during the last boss. The last boss has you firing bombs into a mouth, and you can't find the mouth half the times because it won't lock on, so be fucking firing bombs like you're doing it with your goddamn eyes closed, because for some reason, it won't target properly. Now luckily it's made a little easier by being able to use the bumpers for the things that you'll need to aim, but even then it's still not great, because when you spin around it does it so violently and you can never really quite tell where you're looking, that it ends up still just being very wonky and just not great. There's also an entire level where you're in a water raft, and the water raft controls are abominable. Has you spinning around like you're drunk on a fucking Ferris wheel. It's just confusing sometimes with how the controls work, but it's not the biggest issue in the world. It's just something that becomes frustrating during certain parts of the game. But that aside, those are my only real complaints with just the occasionally frustrating controls with a camera paired with a camera angle that doesn't really do you any favors with figuring out where you are in space. Other than that, the game's fucking great. The majority of the game will have you solving puzzles, which are actually pretty cleverly designed. They're not just surface level baby shit. Has you thinking like a real strong, scholarly man. And there's a lot of things you can find, some rare jewels hidden throughout the world. And you have a lot of different things to tackle these puzzles with, so you'll be using a lot of them between the plunger, the dark light, and Luigi. Luigi's this sidekick that you fart out. He's basically just a cum clone of you. So then you control two Luigis. Luigi can squeeze through gates and holes and shit like that. So there's just a lot of different ways of approaching these puzzles and a lot of things that you'll have to be thinking about when attacking them. It's a really fun game. And it just feels great to be back in the saddle again with the old Dyson in hand sucking on some ghosts. And the game's also not super short or anything. It took me just under 10 hours to beat it, and that was without going through and finding most of the things hidden in the world. And it does have an online mode, but I didn't find it to be that enjoyable. The online mode basically just has you and some teammates going through rooms, clearing them of random ghost mobs. I didn't find it to be all that enjoyable from the couple of games I played, but it is an option if you just can't get enough of sucking up the ghosts. So plugging Luigi's Mansion 3 into the moist meter, I'm giving it a nice 90%. I think if you own a Switch, this game is a must-have. It's a lot of fun, a really, really cute and exciting adventure, and I just really fucking loved it. That's it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
I finally fucking finished Death Stranding, and now I'm left confused, and yet enlightened. I feel as though Kojima's brilliance has allowed me to achieve nirvana. I feel like I now have a higher appreciation for the finer things in art. I feel as if my farts smell better to my nostrils now. Because this game transcends anything you could possibly envision for a video game. This was one of the most tedious chores I've ever taken on in all 25 years of my time as an elite top-tier gamer. Let me get the best things out of the way: the story, the setting, the aesthetic, the writing. Though everything that's not gameplay is good. I'll expand on that in a minute, but let me just vent about the gameplay. Credits just rolled, and I need to tell you how fucking awful this gameplay is. Now, I already know saying that has triggered a fucking Winter Soldier response in some commenters that have their pinky out and finger on the trigger ready for a Reddit comment because I didn't appreciate the high quality art. It just, my American brain couldn't comprehend things that weren't bang bang shooty shooty, as Kojima says. Let me justify this position. No matter how you spin this gameplay, it is boring. At no point can this gameplay even be misconstrued as fun. It becomes tolerable at a certain point, but at its core the gameplay is deliver packages from point A to point B, and it's typically the slowest and longest journey possible. I had deliveries that extended 4,100 kilometers, and I had to approach some of that shit on foot due to batteries running out, lack of generators, or just the mountain being too high and not having enough supplies for it, because you couldn't prepare for a fucking journey that long. You'd have to take breaks, break it up. It's boring. It becomes tolerable with the shared universe where you can use other players' bridges and roads, which help you get from point A to point B. That's fine. But it's never fun. It's never enjoyable. It's always just a means to an end to get to great cutscenes and great writing and characters. Never do you revel in the gameplay and just take time to just appreciate the walking, the being an Amazon delivery man, being a fucking post-apocalyptic postman with a fetus in a pickle jar. It's never enjoyable. It's so slow. It's boring. Now, I streamed this entire game at twitch.tv/moistcritical. You can see that I did everything possible to make the game more exciting in its gameplay, to make it faster, more fun. I spent 4 fucking hours setting up an elaborate network of zip lines, which is the fastest form of travel, from every major location in the game, or so I thought. From the entire middle of the game, I spent setting up zip lines to make the travel between them faster, because this game is all about backtracking and delivering packages of fucking bricks from person to person. Excuse me, hologram to hologram. You deliver sperm and eggs. You deliver some trivial shit. You deliver pizza, porn magazines. Yeah, sometimes it's goofy, but oftentimes, not oftentimes, every time it's never fun. The goofiness is never enough to make the boring tedium fun. It's so insufferably, frustratingly boring, and there's so many anti-fun mechanics in this game for no reason. For example, the recycling mechanic could have been totally just done away with. Half of the mechanics in here and features seem so arbitrary and just there to slap the player's face with Kojima's penis and make it take longer for no reason. It just seems like it's there to be punishing for the sake of punishment. To give you an example, if you want to build a road, it takes a substantial amount of materials, metals for example. In order to get those metals there, you have to individually bring those briefcases and packages full of metal to it. You can use cars to help, but it's going to take multiple trips. It is beyond agonizing. You feel every yard traveled with those packages going to one of the auto pavers for a road, and then you probably don't even use the road because you progress past it, but then you'll get 20,000 likes from other players that have used your road and benefited from your hard work, the fucking sweat of your brow, the blood, sweat, tears, and cum you poured into getting that road built for them to go viral on the Death Stranding social network. It's just not fun at any point. It's more fun to spit on your window and watch it slowly fall to the bottom. There's more fun to be had when you sneeze into a tissue. There's more action when you're shaking a protein shake or mixing something in a blender. Not saying this game really needs action. I'm totally fine if there was no action at all, but there is, and it's bad, by the way. When there is shooting shit, it's not fun. It's straight out of 2006 mechanics. But it doesn't need action is what I'm saying. But there's more engaging gameplay in a visual novel than here. This gameplay is just there to punish you and be tedious for the sake of tedious. And I guess what everyone defends there is that it's relaxing or calming, or you just don't get it. It fits the world and the tone of the world. Who gives a fuck if it fits the tone of the world if it's not fun? And it's definitely not relaxing because the vehicle driving mechanics betray you oftentimes. Shit has a mind of its own. If you take one of the bikes off-road, for example, that shit controls like a grocery bag being picked up by strong wind. It is impossible to go where you want to go half the time when you're out of the map, and there's so many fucking rocks. There's a million rocks. This is a technical marvel in the amount of little rocks that it throws in your way that your fucking vehicles will pinball off of if you make the mistake of taking the road less traveled. It is unbelievably frustrating. I can vent for hours about how not fun it is, and it wants to be not fun. And yes, I can see why people could find it relaxing if they want something to fall asleep to. This game would definitely help with your insomnia, but it's still, no matter how you spin it, never, ever fun. And it's by design. Now, this being a video game, that's a huge problem. It's a fucking game, not a movie, but it should have been. This would be a masterpiece if there wasn't a game attached to it. This is a great movie that unfortunately has a shit game on top of it. Everything else that's not gameplay is superb, spectacular. I love almost every character in here. Yes, there's cheesy dialogue, but when there's this many lines of dialogue, obviously there's going to be some stinkers. But a lot of them happen with Fragile. Fragile's lines often get really comical. She has a line where she goes, "I may be fragile, but I'm not fragile." And then she says verbatim, "Everything you've heard about me is true, except for the lies." So yeah, there's some like, I'm 14 and this is deep kind of shit. But, you expect that from a game that has this much in it. So that's not a complaint. I love the characters and I love the writing. It has such a fascinating story. It has so many nuanced details to the characters and what goes on. And there's certain things you can do when you're in your private room. There's a lot of options available to you. There's just so much in it. Aside from gameplay that is so great. But unfortunately, that fucking gameplay is still there. Like a pimple on the face of a supermodel. Like 1,000 pimples on the face of the world's best-looking supermodel. Graphically, this game is absolutely awe-inspiringly gorgeous. The settings you visit, the certain areas you go to, some of the, without spoiling anything, some of the certain enemies you encounter, some of the BTs, some of the, pretty much everything in this game is gorgeous and its design is flawless. The villain, Higgs, he looks great. It's just so beautiful to look at, an absolute marvel. But then there's that gameplay. There's that gameplay that this 20 minutes of great cutscenes, this 20 minutes of interacting with the characters is about to be fucking ruined when I have to go make this delivery because some old bitch over in the middle of nowhere wanted to have this plastic fork delivered to her and I'm the only man for the job. And also the music in this game bangs. The soundtrack is so great. Every time a song comes on, it is a joy to listen to. Absolute pleasure. But then there's the gameplay. You hear that song, but you're still playing the game, so now you're conflicted. Shit, I got shit gameplay, but great music. Fuck! If only the gameplay wasn't here, I'd rather just listen to the jukebox. I can't stress enough how miserable the gameplay is. I'm not exaggerating. I was genuinely miserable whenever the gameplay would drag on. I had a mission towards the end of the game in a snowy mountaintop. The entire snowy mountaintop area can suck the dirtiest part of my butthole, by the way. Where the mission was visit one area, go 1,000 kilometers to the left. After going 1,000 kilometers to the left to visit one mountaineer, I had to go 3,000 kilometers to the right to visit a doctor. After visiting that doctor 3,000 kilometers on the right, I had to go 3,000 kilometers all the way back to the mountaineer. After going back to the mountaineer, I had to go back to the main hub that I started it in, and then that was the quest line complete. It wasn't interesting, that was not well written, that whole side quest was not good, and it was the most tedious thing in the world because the mountains couldn't be traversed very efficiently. There were zip lines placed but in bad locations and also couldn't be used overly great throughout that area. I could go on and on, I really could. The gameplay is unlike anything I've ever played before in a bad way. There's a reason games don't make gameplay like this, because it doesn't lead itself to being fun for the player. It just reaches a point where you're able to tolerate it and put up with it for the greater good of finishing the plot that Kojima has made here, and it is absolutely fantastic as a movie. And plugging this into the moist meter, I'm giving Death Stranding a 60%. There's so much to love about Death Stranding, none of it involving its core gameplay loop. If that was just improved, changed, or just completely gotten rid of, this could have truly been a fucking masterpiece. And I have no doubt once Kojima does start making movies, they're going to be absolutely wonderful. But this game, I can't recommend it. What I would recommend is watching Death Stranding. Watch a full playthrough without the gameplay perhaps, or the sped up gameplay, but just watching the cutscenes, watching the characters, and some of the side quests I think would be much better than actually picking up the controller and playing this for 60 hours. That's it. See ya.
This episode was brought to you by Keeps.
Initiating moisture.
Going somewhere? I recognize that stance. Perhaps you've had some training after all. Who's your master, Padawan? Someone I killed, perhaps?
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a lot better than I expected it to be. I'm happy to say it was a lot of fucking fun from start to finish. Now, it's important we address the elephant in the room before talking about the game itself. It's made by Respawn Entertainment, who has a great track record of great games like Titanfall, Titanfall 2, Apex. But it is published by EA, who's the devil. It's like Voldemort. You can't say the name out loud. To all the hardcore gamers, you avoid EA games like showers, or at least that's what you say on Reddit, but you still buy all their games and shit. EA, yeah, they published it, but there's no microtransactions like you're used to from that shit company, so I'm happy to say that. It is a game that is very truly meant to be a game for both Star Wars fans and just fans of action games in general. I want to start with the best part about this game, which is the combat. The gameplay in this game never gets stale throughout its entire 15-hour journey. And keep in mind that's without me exploring every nook and cranny on every planet and getting 100%. So there's a lot of content there, and there's a lot of lore in the game scattered throughout the world, so there's a lot to really pick up on if you're a fan of the lore of Star Wars. And all of it is canon according to the mastermind Disney, so that's great for Star Wars fans. But I really think the biggest shining factor of this game is its combat. The gameplay is just always fun and rewarding. It's most closely resembling anything from the Souls franchise, more specifically Sekiro, which is an absolutely great game that I love. Now, obviously the first thing that people are going to ask, is it really hard, like the Souls series? And I played the whole thing through on Grandmaster difficulty, which is the hardest one. I streamed it all at twitch.tv/moistcritical, and I can confidently say there are definitely times in this game where it's extremely hard, and I definitely got hung up on certain mobs and encounters. In particular, one mini-boss called like the Rabid Ass Beater or something, I don't quite remember. It took me like 20 minutes to beat him, and the final boss was slapping my asshole inside and out for like 30 minutes, so it definitely is hard at certain points, but overall the game itself is much easier than something in the Souls franchise. Not that that's a complaint for me at all. I don't think the game needs to be cutthroat and putting the fear of God in you to be fun. I just know it's a natural question when you compare something to the Souls series. Now I think the reason why it's easier than most games in that franchise is the amount of tools you have at your disposal. You get so many really fun and interesting force powers that you can constantly use in a fight to turn the tide in your favor. If you're tactical enough, if you have a galaxy brain, and you're getting attacked by 5 stormtroopers and a goat on Zepho, maybe you lead them to the edge of a cliff and you jump over them, do a giant force slow on the entire mob, and then force push them all off the cliff, wiping the board instantly. There's a lot of really cool powers that you can use in these fights that make it a lot of fun, but the one-on-one fights are just as fun, if not more fun, because the parrying mechanic I think works really well. It's very flashy, and there's some decent combos that you can use, but it's not a very combo-heavy game. It's more so on timing and rhythm, just like Sekiro was. I really enjoyed the combat start to finish. There's more than one lightsaber style. There is double-sided lightsaber, of course, which is iconic. And I just think there's so much to play with and a lot to enjoy when it comes to actually fighting enemies. And there is a lot of enemies to fight. There's a lot of fucking hardcore action. And outside of the action, I think the puzzles are pretty well made. Some of the puzzles definitely had me looking pretty goddamn dumb on stream, but I think that's what makes them fun, is when they're challenging for you and you have to really think hard to figure out how to get to the secret, or find a collectible, or get an upgrade, or just progress in the game. There's a lot of puzzles and there's a lot of ways of approaching them, and I think that's very nice. And I also just like the map design in general. Everything connects in a, pretty intuitive way, so you're never overly lost, and there's a good map system that you can always access and just figure your way around. It's just overall, the gameplay, everything in that department is super enjoyable. Not only the combat, just everything surrounding it. The only thing I will nitpick on a bit is there are mini-bosses that defend upgrades occasionally, and they're just reskins of enemies you've already fought. They're not very inspired mini-bosses. Sometimes they're challenging, yes, but they are, in general, just a reskin of what you've already fought. So that's a little disappointing that they didn't put much work into that, but it's not that big of a deal. Enemy variety is pretty decent across the board. Most of the shit you'll be fighting is animals, slug goats, Darth goats, big toads. But outside of that, there's also the stormtroopers, purge troopers. It's a lot of stuff to fight, and it's nice. I really enjoyed everything in that department. Soundtrack as well is something that stood out to me. I think Star Wars has always had a really strong soundtrack. Although the movies, in my opinion, are not all that great, the soundtrack always is. The soundtrack always fucking slaps, and that's no different in this game. And the characters in this game, I think, are also well written, well acted. Although they look very goofy at times because the animations betray the characters, I think that's something that they didn't put a lot of work into, is making the animations fluid. The game often feels a bit clunky when you're moving around the world. Platforming sometimes ends up a disaster because you'll phase through something or clip through something, or you won't grab something when you should. You'll wall run, but you'll end up wall running right into your own fucking death and plummeting straight to hell, just for no reason other than just the game not working entirely as it should. And the same goes for the camera as well. Often if you'll engage in a close corridors combat section, sometimes your camera will get locked outside of the map and you can't really change it, and then you'll just get brutalized in the locker room by the stormtroopers and you'll have to restart because you die in 2 or 3 shots on Grandmaster. So sometimes that clunkiness gets frustrating, and it's definitely there, and you can really see it in certain animations, especially the run cycle. The run cycle is downright goofy if you're sprinting. I'd recommend just not even sprinting so you don't break immersion, because no one sprints the way this guy does. Looks like he's just carrying a fat load of shit in his pants and trying not to let it spill down his legs. But I mean, really, overall, the game is just a joy to play, and it comes with a really good story that I think is very engaging, and it's well told, albeit goofy at times, and I think their attempts at humor in the story don't land at all. They're really just half-assed and ham-fisted attempts to throw in like simple one-liners towards the end of the game or in the middle, and it just doesn't really work. But the story overall is just really well told, and it's super nice to see, and especially since this takes place in between the third and fourth movie, it's really good to explore that area, because I find that to be a really fascinating time period for this franchise to explore. Seeing the clone troopers turn, spoiler alert, I guess. It's just a really fun set of set pieces that this game brings, and there's a lot of cinematic elements that I think work really well. Sometimes when they throw in a QTE, a quick time event, I think it's a little goofy. It should have just been a cutscene, but I just really enjoyed the game. Plugging this into the Moist meter, I'm giving Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order a fat 85%. It's a game I'd recommend to anyone who really likes an action game, or if you're a fan of Soul Series combat or Sekido combat. There's a lot in this game that it has to offer. You don't have to be a Star Wars fan to enjoy it, and you don't have to be embarrassed by it either. At first, I thought this was going to be a game for only like the hardcore Star Wars fans, you know, the guys that finger gun into their mirror pretending to be Han Solo or petting their action figures before they go to bed. But it's not. It's a game that I think anyone can really enjoy. I know I certainly did.
Did you know the real reason Anakin turned to the dark side of the Force was because he had spooky visions of hair loss? This is a vision many men suffer from though, since 2 out of 3 men will suffer from hair loss by the age of 35. Instead of cutting down younglings though, you have a better choice. Introducing Keeps. Keeps offers you proven treatments that help cut down on hair loss, meaning you can keep your locks for longer. With Keeps, you can visit a certified doctor online and get the medication shipped directly and discreetly to your door. The fact is that prevention is key if you want to keep your hair, so if you notice any thinning at all, hop on Keeps as soon as possible, as it has up to a 90% chance of stopping and reducing further hair loss. Starting at just $10 a month, you can get 50% off your first order by visiting keeps.com/moist. If you're ready to take action against the dark side of hair loss, visit keeps.com/moist for 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/moist. This episode of Moist Meter was brought to you by Dashlane.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Doom Eternal, follow-up to the mega hit Doom 2016, a game that I absolutely adored, and I'm happy to say Doom Eternal is an improvement in every possible area over Doom 2016. The game is extraordinary. It's a game that made me feel like a bigger, stronger man just from fucking playing the game. From the very second you turn on the game and you're greeted with the incredible soundtrack from Mick Gordon, you know you're in for a fucking high-octane thrill ride. It's so badass, it's gonna make you want to get a barbed wire tattoo while you're playing the game. It's just so good from the very second the game starts. It grabs you by the nutsack and never lets go. It constantly just has you putting your cock on the chin of demons, constantly. The pacing is relentless. Full throttle aggression, non-stop action. It makes it feel like your blood has been replaced by diesel fuel. It is so incredible. It's such a refreshing experience. The FPS gameplay is so crisp, so smooth. The movement is magnificent. There's so many new mechanics this time around too. It's a lot deeper than Doom 2016. A lot of weapon variety and a lot of different purposes for each weapon, so you'll be constantly switching in between weapons during a fight, because you're going to be mixing and matching what works best against what enemy. Let's say you need armor, well maybe you'll use the flame belch and then hit them with a blood punch so that we get like this fat fucking pinata explosion of armor drops. It's so good. There's a lot more strategy to it, a lot more depth, and it's a lot more fluid. It just feels incredible. When you go through a Slayer Gate, which is a really challenging optional arena that you can do, and if you beat it, you get a key, which unlocks a powerful weapon if you collect enough of those keys. You'll go through this gauntlet of thousands of demons, this horde of meat that just comes after you, from the most pathetic, pitiful, small demons, you know, the demons from the person that pirated a movie one time, to these fucking hulking, gigantic gigantic beasts of legend, and you'll grit your teeth and fail multiple times on nightmare difficulty until you finally triumph and get that incredible reward. But all the while that you're getting your ass pounded, it doesn't hurt. It feels great because the maps are so well designed to complement high flying action and just constant movement that it just always is fun just to get in there, even if you are getting your shit pushed in. And you will eventually get better and push through it regardless of your level of talent in the game, because you'll want to, because it's so goddamn fun. It is just so enjoyable. And I also like to say the narrative in this game I actually really enjoyed. I thought the narrative was really entertaining, albeit not the best written thing ever made or anything, but it was super fun. And it shows you just how fucking cool Doom Guy is. You know, just this remarkably imposing presence that everyone, man, woman, child, demon, angel, god himself fears and regrets creating. It's just really cool to have this really badass character and have a story all wrapped around how badass he is. I just really enjoyed that. And I can't compliment the soundtrack enough, by the way, because the soundtrack throughout the entire campaign is just a straight up banger. Real boner jams from Doom Eternal. Really, really solid stuff there. Everything is great. The aesthetic design, every level feels nice to play. Every map is so fucking nice to play around with. The only thing I felt was even a little bit clunky was swimming. I don't know why they even included swimming. It just slowed everything down, and it's not like they were puzzles or anything. It was more just a chore finding exactly what you needed to bash into. I just don't really understand why swimming was even here. That's like the only thing I could even criticize in the entire game, because everything else was fantastic. Finding secrets was fun, going off the beaten path and exploring was fun, and of course, just massacring hordes of demons never got old. I cannot express enough how much I enjoyed the campaign. The campaign was nice and long as well, so you get a lot of bang for your buck in the campaign, and then there is multiplayer. The multiplayer I don't think is bad, but I also don't really think it's good. It's just kind of really mediocre. It's just something that's kind of like this aftermath. Like, you're riding the high of beating the campaign and you want more. And there is more. There's master levels and shit, but there's also multiplayer if you want like even more. And you'll go from like a full chub after the campaign to just kind of going a little soft from the multiplayer. Again, it's not bad. It's simple. There's a Slayer, there's two demons. It's a 1v2 scenario. You go against demons as you would in the campaign. You have regular AI demons that you fight. You get all the shit you got from them in the campaign, but there are two demons that are picked by human players, and they're trying to kill you, obviously. So if you kill both demons, you win. If you kill one demon, the other demon has a respawn timer, and if he respawns, you have to kill them both again. You have to kill them both before one of them respawns. That's how the Slayer wins, and the demons win, obviously, if they kill you. There's a bunch of different powers that the demons can use. There's loadouts that you can use, different ability cards, shit like that. There is a little bit of depth to it, but I just didn't really find myself enjoying it all that much. I just think it was wasted potential not to create a multiplayer that was an arena shooter using the gameplay of Doom Eternal, because it would have fit absolutely beautifully with an arena shooter style. And I know arena shooters are pretty much dead these days, and I think that's a shame, because arena shooters are a lot of fun, especially when they're done well, and I think it could have been done well here. Maybe in the future they'll add that, I don't really know, but as it stands, the multiplayer is just kind of like this afterthought. Like, you're not going to be getting this game to get lost in the multiplayer. That's just going to be something that you remember when you're just bored after beating the game for the 5th time over on Ultra Nightmare. It's just not great, not bad. And it doesn't bring the game down, I'd say. I don't think it really takes it down a notch or anything. So plugging Doom Eternal into the moist meter, I'm giving it a fat 95%. Everything in this game is done super well. It is the most fun I've had with a shooter in a long, long time. It is absolutely extraordinary. I streamed the whole thing at twitch.tv/moistcritical. You can see that I was an absolute monster at this game, by the way, so I was able to push this shit to its maximum potential. I was surprised the game didn't fucking crash on me with the stress testing I was putting it through. Incredible game, so much you can do with it, and I can't recommend it enough if you're a fan of high-paced, first-person shooting action. Great stuff. I want to talk about the modern internet age where you have to memorize a ton of passwords for a ton of different things, or if you're some caveman using one password for everything, you need to stop that ASAP. This is an intervention. You need to stop doing that. You should have multiple passwords for a lot of different things, and it sometimes becomes a bit of a burden to remember those, or if you write them down, remembering to write them down or finding where you wrote them down, it just becomes a hassle. And password recovery is oftentimes not very efficient, where you have to answer these questions like, what was the name of your grandmother's first goldfish? And then you don't remember, and then you're locked out. It can just be a big headache, which is why I want to talk about Dashlane. Dashlane eliminates the problem entirely. It has all the passwords you need when you need them. It's super quick, super simple, one-click login anywhere you need, so you never have to worry about fumbling around with remembering what goes where. There's no ads, which is great. It's not doing anything shady with your data because Dashlane can't even see your data. And there's no credit card required, so they're not scamming you or anything out of money. It's just an all-around great product that just makes the online living space much more quick, efficient, and simple. So if you're interested in trying Dashlane out, you can go to dashlane.com/Penguinz0 to try Dashlane for free. And if you want to upgrade to the premium version, you can use the discount code Penguinz0 to get 10% off.
This episode is brought to you by Raycon.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Fall Guys. Fall Guys is just an outright joy to play. Just an incredibly pure, fun game. Just a game to get the friends together over Discord, talk some shit, butt chug some Miller Lights, and just go wild. It's just raw fun. I'm talking SpongeBob, F is for friends who do stuff together, U is for you and me. N is for anytime you get a win, you feel like a fucking champion of the Roman Colosseum, that you're better than everyone else in that fucking lobby, just slapping children around in the obstacle courses. Everything about the game is just extremely enjoyable. So the game is a battle royale of Mario Party minigames. Battle royale has to be one of the most stale genres around right now, and this just completely turns it on its tits. It is just a super casual game to just kick back on, put a big goofy smile on your face with your friends, and just get rowdy out there. Now, there's a ton of maps and modes in here, but not all of them are great. The vast majority are. There's only a few I can think of that I genuinely just don't enjoy playing on, and I'm pretty sure most people agree. It's the one where you're matching fruit. One of the minigames is a fruit goes on a screen after 15 seconds. There's a bunch of platforms, each representing a different fruit, and you have to stand on the one that gets called out. It's not challenging, it's not fun, it's not chaotic like the other ones. You can just group think, you don't even need to be paying attention. You can just go where everyone else goes because it's really hard to fuck this one up. Whenever someone loses on the matching fruit minigame, I think less of them as a person. And then there's another one that I think is actually the worst one, which is just some diarrhea dog shit. It's called Hoops-A-Daisy. It's a team game where your team is jumping through randomly spawning rings and you get points for those. It's just pure RNG, and it's just not a fun one at all. And it's not like this is a super competitive, cutthroat, slap your mother kind of game that's gonna have an esports career up there with League of Legends or anything, but it is still frustrating to get fucked by bad spawns in this one. But that's something I also want to mention. Even if you're getting your cheeks spread on every minigame and losing in the first round every time, you're still having a good time experiencing that, because this game is just that fucking fun. Where even if you're just getting slapped off the map by like the wipeout obstacle courses, it's still fun. Like, you're still laughing and enjoying it. It really is just one of the most pure fun games I've played in a long time. There's multiple rounds, each round eliminates X amount of players until a final round, and there's one winner. It's, like I said, a battle royale of Mario Party minigames and obstacle courses, and it really is as fun as that concept makes it sound. As long as this game continues to add new maps, new modes, and minigames and shit, this will always be an extremely fun game. I don't see this being just some kind of one-off fad for a month or some flavor of the month shit. I really think this game has extreme staying power as long as they're willing to put the effort into making more maps and more modes and shit. And I don't think it should be that hard, right? I mean, goddamn, you could literally just copy Mario Party 4 minigames and just throw them in here with a little twist or something. It's just, it's an incredible concept that I can't get enough of. When I was watching the game, I thought it looked nice, but I didn't think I'd really get into it. But once I started playing, holy shit. I was fucking balls deep in this. I was ready to start fucking getting sweaty on it, looking up meta strategies for each Mario Party game to be the optimal gamer here, like a truly gamer glunk gladiator that doesn't lose at Fall Guys. It's just really fun. It's fun to do well in, it's fun to do shitty in. It is just, when you fire this game up, you know you're in for at least a good time, even if you're terrible at it. And it's really kind of hard to be awful at it. You're always going to do at least decently, I imagine. Now, there's not a whole lot of gameplay mechanics. There's run, jump, dive, and grab. Grab is never really used for anything other than fucking up some people, which is always fun to just grab someone's ass and give them like a wedgie and make them fall off the map. But that doesn't happen too often because you can kind of break out of grab pretty quickly. And you never really use grab to pull yourself up onto ledges, which you can do. There's only one map I can even think of where that's even viable. So the grab isn't the most useful thing, but it is a fun tool to have to just kind of grief other players if that's what you're looking for. But going forward, I'd like to see grab have a few more applications in some of the minigames, as opposed to just being a meme tool to kind of just cock block somebody in the round. Everything else has its purpose. Jump, obviously. Jump and dive, obviously. Sometimes your character will just fall for no reason, like their shoelaces get tied together and you'll just be running and fall forward for no fucking reason. But that's not like a big deal either, because at that point it's just kind of part of the goofy fun experience, so I don't have a problem with that. So yeah, I mean, that's really about it. It's just a really, really enjoyable game. Plugging this into the moist meter, I'm giving Fall Guys a 90%. I think this has potential to go up to a 95% with more maps and modes. Right now, there's not a whole ton. There is a good selection, especially for launch, but I would have liked to see a little bit more, because oftentimes you're just playing the same ones. And like I said, quite a few of them are kind of lackluster, but the majority are just really fucking good. There's a couple more I didn't mention. I don't really like the tail mini games. I think the tail ones are just kind of shitty too, because the optimal strategy is just sitting doing nothing with a couple fingers up your ass while everyone else is just chasing each other around, and then maybe the last 40 seconds of the round, then you join the fray and steal the tail at the end and run. So there's a couple that I just don't really like, but overall, I love the selection here, and I love the concept, and every time I fire this up, I'm having a great fucking time. So yeah, I would highly recommend Fall Guys if you're just looking for some good old goofy fun with your friends, or just even playing alone, it's still a good time. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's time I bend you over and give you the truth. Getting yourself a quality pair of wireless earbuds is extremely important, and Raycon is some of the best you can find. Raycon is the same amazing audio quality you're used to, but it starts at half the price of the other premium wireless earbuds. Raycon is an extraordinary option for anyone that wants to stay active and still pump those boner jams, as I've talked about many times in the past. That's the main purpose I use my Raycon for, is when I'm working out or doing any kind of cardio or anything active. I like to pop in the Raycon earbuds and just get wild. It helps me get a couple extra reps in there. It doesn't ruin anything by having a wire dangling that I accidentally rip out and hurt myself with. It's just convenient, works well, sounds great. Their everyday E25 model is still their best model right now, so I'd highly recommend those as well. So if you're interested in getting yourself a great pair of wireless earbuds, I'd recommend Raycon. You can go to buyraycon.com/moist to get 15% off your order. Clicking the link in the description works as well. So again, if you're interested, you can go to buyraycon.com/moist for 15% off. That's it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Risk of Rain 2. I'll go ahead and bend over for all of you and let you know right now, I didn't play the first Risk of Rain. In fact, I'm really not even a fan of the genre. But Risk of Rain 2 is an absolute fucking banger. I played it on a whim during a stream after we had just finished up the Fast and Furious game, which is an experience unlike anything else this world has to offer. And Risk of Rain 2 had me glued to it for an extra 6 or so hours. And I played significantly more since then. I think I'm right around 24 hours of playtime so far, and that's just within like the last 6 or so days. The game is just extremely fun. So to break the game down, Risk of Rain 2 is a roguelike where you play as one of many different characters, each with their own set of abilities that give them an entirely unique playstyle. Really, no character plays the same as another one, and I really love that. And I actually like every single character I have so far. I haven't unlocked all of them, but I've unlocked a good chunk. The only one I haven't enjoyed very much is the Commando. It's just a really basic class. There's nothing wrong with it. It plays just fine, just like all the others, but it's just not as much fun as some of the greater ones, like my fucking boy Multi or Loader. Loader is probably some of the most fun you can have in this game. Absolutely love Loader. Loader's like an in-your-face, right up in your nutsack kind of melee frame, where you can like launch yourself across the map. You have like a bionic commando grapple. You can play this game like fucking Attack on Titan with Loader, where you just grapple to someone with your extendo fister and then spin around them, attacking them the whole time. It's just really, there's so many different ways of approaching fights in this game with the different characters that it's just always a joy. And the best part about the game is, of course, its loot. That's its core mechanic. You kill a bunch of enemies on a bunch of different stages, you get money for it, you spend that money on the chests that randomly spawn on the map, and you get randomly generated loot. Some of it's incredible, and some of it's just like a stack of condoms it gives you that's pretty worthless, but those worthless items aren't entirely useless because you can have a bunch of those and you can trade them in for something better if you can find it on a different stage. There's also 3D printers where it prints the item that you see there. If it's an item you want, you can trade some of your useless stuff for it to get something better for a build you're going for. There's just plenty of options when it comes to building your character during a run, getting him up to a godlike power spike, and that's incredible because a lot of games shy away from making you too strong for fear that you'll get bored of it. The only other game I can think that allows you to go this hard and being overpowered is Warframe. And this, I love that. I love the fact that this game isn't pissing its pants and biting its nails in fear that the player's going to get bored being too powerful, so they have to limit how many items you can stack. This game doesn't give a fuck about that. All your items can stack until you're ready to take on God himself if you want to. You can make yourself so powerful you're one-shotting every single boss, even on Monsoon difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty. It's great. I love that it encourages you to go for these God runs and be overpowered. There's never a point where you're just like, you know, firing wet noodles at an enemy. As long as you're collecting items and being mindful of the build that you want to put on, you can always be hitting these meaty slaps on everything, and it's always so satisfying. Every character has so many cool fucking abilities to use and to take care of enemies. It's just an absolute joy. I also really like the progression in this game where you unlock units by performing some specific very challenging tasks, so when you do get the unit, you actually feel like you got a big reward and you earned it. I like that it's just not freely given to you. You have to actually work for it. And like I said earlier, you can get up to this godlike status of power, but the game's not easy. This game is by no means some kind of pushover where you'll come in here like half overdosed on Xanax and still pull off an easy god run. This is an extremely challenging game. Things can go wrong in a fucking instant. If you take your eyes off of the computer screen during a monsoon run, like maybe your dog took a shit in the corner and you look to check what that smell is, you're probably going to die in that brief moment that you weren't watching the game. This game can get hectic, chaotic, extremely fast, and I love that. It's extremely challenging, very rewarding. The final boss in particular, I think, was great. The final boss, he will spread those cheeks and then come in for seconds for dessert. I found the whole last stage great, culminating in a wonderful boss fight, complemented by some amazing music. Risk of Rain 2 has an incredible soundtrack. It absolutely slaps. I want to mention that because the soundtrack in here, it really caught me by surprise as well. It was really fucking good. Sound design was fantastic. Now keep in mind, when I say final boss, I don't mean like you beat this boss and you beat the game, you're never coming back to it. It's not exactly like a narrative, story-heavy game. It does have a lot of lore to it if you care about it, but that's more of just like a secondary thing to just kind of pay attention to. You don't have to be like, you know, digesting all of this information and exposition if you don't want to. It's you reading things about the lore and about the items that you get a story. So when I say final boss, I just mean the last stage in a run. You will absolutely be going back through and playing again. Just because you beat the final boss doesn't really mean shit, because there's still plenty of things that you can still do and accomplish. Overall, I really have no complaints at all about this game, at least nothing that I can actually put as a complaint on the game itself. Just the nature of the genre where things are randomized. Sometimes you just get absolute garbage for loot, or sometimes you can't even find any chests and all you're getting is little gunner drones that you can buy, which isn't as good as just getting an item. So sometimes you just get absolutely fucked in the ass on loot, which isn't the game's fault, that's just the nature of the genre, so there's really nothing to hold against the game there, but that's like the only time I'd get frustrated with Risk of Rain 2, is when it was just out of my control and just down to bad RNG. Plugging Risk of Rain 2 into the moist meter, I'm giving this bad boy a 95%. I have absolutely no complaints about this game, and this was one of the biggest surprises I've had in gaming in a long time. I didn't even expect to like the game. I thought I was only going to play it on stream for like an hour or two just because so many people recommended it, but I've fallen in love with it. I think Risk of Rain 2 is an incredible experience. It has a multiplayer, which is, it's good, it's fun with friends, but it is competing for loot, which is kind of frustrating for some people, so I could totally see why a lot of people might be a little apprehensive about multiplayer and sharing that loot like that. But overall, there's just so many things to do in the game, so much replayability, so much versatility when it comes to builds with different units. I just absolutely loved Risk of Rain 2. Fantastic game, and yeah, that's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Hitman 3, a game that I was extremely excited for because I loved Hitman 2, and more specifically I loved Postman Dale in Hitman 2, one of the finest characters in all of gaming. I think IO Interactive knocked it out of the park with the Postman Dale character from Hitman 2. Unfortunately, Postman Dale does not make a reappearance in Hitman 3. I'll just go ahead and hit you with the cold water right there, right away. So don't go in expecting more Postman Dale content, which is a shame, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. So let's just get into this right now. I'm going to let you know I was pretty disappointed with Hitman 3, not just because of the absence of Postman Dale, but the game is just really a carbon copy of Hitman 2. There is, I think, only a single new gadget or even really new feature in the game, which is the camera. And the camera's pretty cool, especially when it comes to a great mission where it's basically like Knives Out, where you're solving a crime while going about trying to kill your target. It's really a great mission. Let me make this clear. I don't think Hitman 3 is a bad game by any means, but with 2 years of development, I would at least expect them to change a few things, improve a few things, add anything at all. Even in terms of graphics, it's identical. I was watching comparison videos because I thought I was taking fucking crazy pills and squirting like bleach enemas up my asshole like a lunatic. Because I kept saying when I was streaming it that I think it looks exactly the same as Hitman 2. So then I pulled up comparison videos, and lo and behold, it is exactly the same graphically as Hitman 2, the only difference being some lighting changes, and it does help in some levels, but overall, there's just no improvements in this game over Hitman 2. If you liked Hitman 2, you're gonna like Hitman 3, and since I liked Hitman 2, I did like the game, but I am disappointed that there isn't anything new. It's Hitman 2 with new maps, which is cool because it's a good game, but I mean, fucking come on, it's 2 years, you can do more than that, I would think. I'm sure they're competent developers and talented. I don't know why they would make it so uninspired. And the story is not good. But I don't think anyone's playing Hitman for the story, but just want to make that clear. The narrative, kinda dog shitty. But setting aside that disappointment at the lack of changes or anything added to the game, it's still an enjoyable experience that I had fun with. The maps they added are really cool maps. I think pretty much all of them are interesting with a lot of great ways of approaching them. Some of the main story kills, because on my first playthrough I just kind of did like the main story kills, like the main pathways to killing your target. Some of them were bad. Like there's one where you overload a guy's brain, but since there's no like great animation, all that happens is he gets a nosebleed and they say he's dead, and then everyone goes about their business. So it's really just not much of a payoff for that one. But aside from that, most of the main path kills are pretty cool and really enjoyable with a great payoff. But there are a few like that are a bit of a stinker. Some of the maps are absolutely beautiful though. There's no bad maps. There's a couple maps that kind of got on my nerves a little bit when it came to navigating them because I thought there was just like a whole bunch of fucking nothing in them, just empty space. But going back and revisiting them after doing the main path kills and going for more goofy assassinations, I found a lot more fun on them. There's no bad maps here. I want to make that clear. So going into this Hitman 2 DLC, expect some quality maps on it. There's really nothing here that's going to make you roll your eyes and not have any fun. And I specifically pointed one out early on, which I compared to Knives Out. I think that was a really creative one. I enjoyed that a lot, even though I felt it dragged a little bit. I really did enjoy that and the characters in there. There was a lot of them. There was like an interview you conduct. You get to be your little fucking Sherlock Holmes and live out your detective fantasy with a lot of options of approaching things. That mission, I think, is probably the best one in the game, in my opinion. There really is a lot to enjoy about the game, but if you were expecting anything to be improved from Hitman 2 or anything at all to be different or better or added, you're going to walk away disappointed. This game is quite literally Hitman 2 with more maps. And I know that gets said a lot about things like, oh, Call of Duty hasn't changed in years, you know, it's just trivial differences. But with this game, I mean, it is actually the exact same game. Every animation is the same, every sound effect, everything from the ground up is the exact same from Hitman 2. And the only thing that I can tell they added was a camera. And now for a lot of people, that's not going to be a big deal because Hitman 2 is so good, but I just can't reiterate enough how unfortunate I find that to be, because I just wanted more from the game. That's my biggest complaint. I really have nothing to say bad about the game because everything works. Hitman 2 was a great game, and this is a great game too because it's the same fucking game. I would expect them to want to take the franchise to the next level, this being the conclusion to this trilogy they've built up with Hitman 1, 2, and 3, the new ones here. I would expect them to want to make it something big and add a whole lot to it and make it like, you know, Halo 3 of Hitman franchise, you know? But they didn't. This is like the NBA 2K of Hitman games, where it's the same game just with a roster change. That's basically what this did, the roster being the maps. And charging a full $60 for it. I want to make it clear, I don't have a problem with it being $60 since it's Hitman and there's a lot of maps here. And since it's Hitman, it means there's a lot of fucking replayability to those maps and a ton of different ways of approaching those things. So I definitely think you get your $60 worth of playtime. That's not a problem. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to just go ahead and plug it into the moist meter now. I'm giving Hitman 3 an 80%. I do feel a little slimy giving it an 80% after everything I've said, considering I always dock a fucking ton of points when other game companies copy and paste their franchises. But for Hitman, I'm making the exception only because Hitman 2 was the best fucking Hitman game in my opinion, at least one of them. So getting more of that is a good thing. I still had a very positive experience with the game. It's just I can't help but be let down by laziness. Again, probably isn't the right word, but just the lack of innovation or just even like the slightest changes, really. I can't help but be let down. I was expecting a lot going into it, and I didn't get any of those expectations. I just got more of what I knew I already liked with nothing different. You know, no big graphics upgrades, no new animations. You know, if you're doing a hand-to-hand combat thing, you know, you press X on someone and you still get the exact same prompts and the exact same animation from the last game. You couldn't even up that. Like, come on. I'm sure you could. 2 years, I don't think this is the best they could have done, but I did enjoy the game. It's still a good game. But fucking going around, you know, collecting grapes as a disguised wine sommelier is fun. I mean, it is a fun fucking experience. So I guess it's hard to justify the game being under an 80 when it is just so fun. You know what's never a letdown? A high quality VPN service. Surfshark is the one I would recommend for anyone out there that wants to take their privacy online seriously. Surfshark's just a robust VPN offering so many different services and features such as Clean Web, which allows you to surf, then the Clean Cyber Ocean, no ads, trackers, malware, phishing attempts. You can also use Surfshark on an unlimited amount of devices so you can connect and use all of your family's devices simultaneously. You can whitelist certain things with their whitelister ability, which allows specific apps and websites to bypass the VPN to help with things like mobile banking. There's also a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you're not super satisfied, it's pretty much risk-free at that point. So there's just a ton of reasons to use Surfshark VPN, and I think, as I've said many times, VPNs are super important these days. So if you're interested in trying Surfshark, you can go to surfshark.deal/penguin to get 83% off a 2-year plan and 3 extra months free. That's surfshark.deals/penguin for 83% off a 2-year plan and 3 months free. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Little Nightmares 2. I was a huge fan of the first game, so I was pretty excited for this one, but I had absolutely no idea that it was coming out anytime soon, so that was a pleasant little surprise from Santa Claus just dropping this bad boy off. And I gotta tell you, I was very happy with it. I was very pleased. I think the game is just as good, if not even better in certain cases, than the first game. Now, I had to refresh my memory on the lore of the first game because it's been so long since I've played it. So I combed through the sacred text and relearned everything that happened in the first game narratively, so that way I knew exactly where we were starting off in Little Nightmares 2. And after digesting the full compendium of Little Nightmares universe, I was super drawn into the story once again. And now after completing Little Nightmares 2 and watching the secret ending, because I didn't actually get it myself, I fucked up. I can say with certainty that this has left me very confused. It's got me just with fingers up my asshole, scratching my head. I am a little lost on the narrative. I'm not too prideful to admit that. There's a lot of moving parts to the Little Nightmares universe, and I'm just having a hard time figuring out where they all connect. I still really enjoyed it. Like, this isn't like a complaint about it at all. I do like ambiguous titles when it comes to the narrative, instead of just like hammering that shit home, making you feel like such a fucking idiot that they have to hold your hand through what's going on. I do like it being up to the interpretation sometime of the player. But in the case of Little Nightmares, I feel like in certain ways, it's almost too open-ended because there's no dialogue, there's no spoken words, so you're just piecing things together based on what you're seeing in the environment and the character's body language and what you're experiencing together. So you're piecing it together as you play through what you're seeing, not what you're hearing. And I guess for me, I just kind of got a little lost on how exactly all these pieces were fitting. There's still a lot that the narrative was able to surprise me with in terms of like some twists, also where it fits into the universe and all of this. And I was able to understand the big moments and the big things for the most part, but as for how it all fits into the puzzle of Little Nightmare, how they put the rectangle in the rectangle hole here, I'm still just a little fucking confused on. But it's not a big deal. Still really enjoyed that aspect. The universe of Little Nightmares I find to be beyond fascinating. The art design, the character design, the everything visually in this game is so good. It's so unique. It's so well done. And it does what horror games fail to do, which is actually build tension and unnerve you. A lot of the characters, like a bunch of the bad guys you'll see here, are genuinely creepy, and they're designed very well to kind of make your skin crawl a little bit, like, ooh, this is yucky, I want to get the fuck out of here as quick as possible. Then you try and do that, and then you get like absolutely blasted, your head gets fucking tore off, and they spit down your throat. Like, it gets gruesome. And you have to pace yourself, you have to just sit there and patiently wait and watch them do their gross shit. And then eventually you make your move to stealth past them or solve a puzzle to get by them. And it's so rewarding, it's so fun. I really loved everything about Little Nightmares 2. I really did. I had a great time playing it. I think every puzzle was well designed. There was a lot of different mechanics they were throwing in. Sometimes using a flashlight to stun people. Sometimes you're teleporting around using television sets. Other times you're just using teamwork with six to get around and connect dots and get things to make things move up and down. It's fun. It's just fucking fun. The puzzles aren't exactly brain busters. You don't need a 200 IQ to solve these bad boys. You're not going to solve one of these puzzles and all of a sudden have a third eye open on your forehead and achieve enlightenment. Like, they're not like the hardest puzzles in the world, but they're just challenging enough to keep it enjoyable and keep things moving at a steady pace. I don't think anyone's going to get stuck on something for a long time. There are going to be certain things where you're like, oh, where the fuck do I do here? And then maybe 10-15 minutes later, you're like, yep, that's the solution, and now I feel silly for not having done it right the first time. It's no complaints at all when it comes to gameplay. I enjoyed every moment of it. I had a great time exploring the universe, finding some of the hidden things in the universe. There's hats that you can collect, and sometimes even the hat, not to spoil anything, but sometimes the hats may even play a role in getting a couple things done. It's just such a rewarding game. There's really just not a whole lot else like it when it comes to the game design here. It's so good. Like, I really can't suck their dick enough about how beautiful the game looks and how macabre the whole thing is. But now this will bring me to where I think people might not like Little Nightmares 2. It's a really short game. It took me just over 4 hours start to finish to blast through this bad boy. Not that I think that's a bad thing. I have said this multiple times. If the game is only 4 hours, it better be 4 really strong hours. And I definitely think Little Nightmares 2 is. It's also not a $60 game, so you're paying less for less hours in the game. There's really no replayability. I don't see many people beating the game and be like, can't wait to fucking get back in there and do all that again, because it's very much a game that you'll experience once, really enjoy, and maybe go back one more time just to get everything for a secret ending, to make sure you get every little bit there, to digest every piece of lore that you can. And I really think most people are going to want to, because I think they've set up a fascinating storyline and universe here with Little Nightmares. So it's just not a game that a ton of people are going to go back and replay, so for that you're only going to have like 4.5 hours of game time. And I know for some reason a lot of people out there take big issue with that. I see people melt down and whine about it, throw some kind of baby temper tantrum. Oh, this game only has 45 hours worth of gameplay, it's not even worth my time. I'll go spend that instead cruising subreddits. When you say a game is 4 hours, a lot of people like scoff at that shit for some reason. Another minor complaint I had about the game is there's some bugs in it, a couple glitches. Like, I soft-locked myself once, not that it happened again after that, but I got soft-locked hard as fuck right in the beginning. And sometimes when I would swing one of the weapons at an enemy, it would go right through them, or it would go right through the thing that I was aiming at, or just bounce off of invisible nothingness, just get fucking blasted back by the air. So there is times where you will be betrayed by like a bug or two, but it's not super frequent, and it's not the worst thing in the world since there's no loading times. So when you fuck up, it just kind of immediately starts over again, so you're not losing a ton of time to like a loading screen or something. But it is something worth pointing out that there are a couple of minor bugs and issues, but nothing that's going to be game ruining. Now, plugging Little Nightmares 2 into the Moist meter, I think this bad boy is a very high quality 4.5 hours, so I'm giving it a nice 9 out of 10. I think most people will enjoy it, especially if you're not one of those pretentious elitist gamers that only plays games that have 90 to 100 hours worth of tedious grinding content. You'll appreciate this. I think it's very well made. The puzzles are fun. The universe is great. The lore and the themes are very rich. I really enjoyed pretty much everything about it. So I'd recommend it. And yeah, that's about it. Right now you're probably asking yourself, damn, how does Charlie look so well rested and energized? And I'll go ahead and reveal the secret formula here. It's because I slept on a Helix mattress last night. And Helix mattresses are fantastic. Helix mattresses are some very beautiful mattresses that are going to be catered to your unique body type and sleep preferences based on a sleep quiz that Helix will ask you. So the sleep quiz is going to ask you multiple questions to get a feel for what makes you you and match you with the perfect mattress to complement your sleep position, your preferences, and by the time you finish it, you're going to have the mattress of your wet dreams. The Helix mattresses are absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend them. So if you're interested in upgrading your mattress, which I think everyone should have a high quality mattress that they're happy with since you're going to be sleeping on it every night forever. So I definitely think mattresses are very important. So it's definitely important to have a mattress you're happy with. So definitely check out Helix if you're interested at helixsleep.com/moist, and you can get up to $200 off your Helix mattress. Also, Helix offers a 100-night sleep trial just to make sure the mattress really fits you. Also, shipping and returns are free and extremely convenient, so there's just no need to leave your house. That's helixsleep.com/moist for up to $200 off of a mattress. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Everhood. This game's been out for almost 2 months now, so this is absolutely the latest I've ever reviewed something. Typically, I like to review things the fucking second they hit the shelves, you know, right when they're out of the oven, fresh off the press, they go into my butthole and I puke out a Moist Meter score to accurately represent the quality of the product. But Everhood's been out for a little while now, but I was so moved by the game that I wanted to make this Moist Meter just to let you all know about it and tell you how fucking great this game is, because not a lot of people are talking about it, surprisingly. The first thing most people are going to draw the comparison to is Undertale. The style of the game and even a lot of the mechanics of the game are very similar to Undertale. It's heavily inspired by it and there's nothing wrong with it. And I was guilty of thinking that the game was even made by the Undertale team or the Undertale creators. But it's not. This is a totally separate project from a brand new team that really put together this passion project, and it shows. When playing the game, I can actually just feel the fucking creators' heartbeat in it. They really put their soul into this game. So first let me tell you what kind of game it is. It's a rhythm game for the most part, and it's a rhythm combat game. It's not like what you're expecting like DDR or with like something Stepmania where you're clicking arrows in the right arrows with the right beat. That's not this at all. Here you're dodging the beat or you're fighting back against whoever is attacking you with the music. And the music is absolutely fucking incredible. There isn't a bad track in this entire game. All the characters are likable as well. It's a well-written game. I found myself enjoying the story and the characters and the universe. It's a game that really takes some like existential questions and tosses them at you and puts you in this like really psychedelic, trippy universe, this world of immortals who you're talking to, and then you end up fighting with music, and it's just beautiful. From the sound of the game to the look of the game, it's beautiful, and it's constantly changing. This is a game that never runs out of creativity. The songs are constantly different. What happens during the battles is different. It's always changing things on you, so it's never stale, it's never boring or tedious or a chore. It's just so good. And there's so much secret content in the game to explore, so there's a lot of content here. It took me right around 15 hours to play through most of the routes, and I still didn't do everything, but I did do most of it. I played through the majority of the game on Expert, and I had a blast. Some of these boss battles were some of the hardest boss battles I've ever experienced. I just recently went through the majority of the Souls games. As you all know, Souls-like games are my favorite games. So I went through Demon Souls Remake, Dark Souls Remastered, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and just recently Bloodborne. I blasted through all 5 of those games, and not a single one of the bosses, not a single boss in any of those games, comes close to some of the bosses in this one. This shit was brutal. Fucking wacko mode shit in here, so there's definitely a challenge. It's not a game that you're gonna come here and fucking steamroll or anything like that. I could really suck this game's dick for a long time. I just really loved pretty much everything about it. I mentioned that you could really feel how much care and passion went into the game, and I'd like to just give you an example of that. For one of the routes, you get to this stunning, like this visually stunning conclusion. It's getting all trippy, psychedelic, time is slowing down, speeding up, you're crashing into the fucking sun, going faster than light while you're having this rhythmic battle with beautiful music playing, and then you finally reach a very satisfying conclusion. Or so you think, and then it goes into an even more exciting and even more thrilling sequence where you're now battling against fucking God himself, the fucking time wizard, you're becoming time, like it's just so good. And then once that all wraps up, then you get a really satisfying epilogue where you get to meet with the characters again and go through certain things. I'm trying not to spoil anything because there is a narrative here and it's good. I enjoy it. And then after all of that, after you've gone through this massive adventure, then you kind of get to hear the developers talking to you. The developers showing their appreciation for you playing their game this far, because it's long. Like, it's not a short game. This would not be something that you'd be able to like speed run on your first playthrough and be done within 3 hours. It takes a while to get here, and the developers were really appreciative of the time you put into their game. So they kind of break the fourth wall, which isn't unusual for the game because there is fourth wall breaking here, addressing you, the player. And the developers come in there and just thank you for the experience and saying that they hope you had a fun time. Like, there's like 3 different times they say, you know, hopefully this experience has been an exciting one and an enjoyable one, and it's so cute. It's so fucking cute to see the developers really wanting to deliver something special and really hoping that it resonates with its player base, and I think it absolutely did. Of course, I streamed the whole game start to finish on Twitch, and the chat fucking loved the game. Most people, in fact, I'd say like almost everyone, was really into the whole world, the universe, and it was just a lot of fun. And of course, me getting stuck on a single boss for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, that was a little cherry on top because I was getting a bit salty, which is uncommon for me, but this game, it was starting to bring the demons out because I was just really invested in it. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a flawless game. In fact, there's one big problem with the game, and that's its performance. Some of these have so many moving parts in the battles, so sometimes when you're battling someone, it's going to be overloading you with a lot of shit on the screen, and what ends up happening is the FPS tanks, and I mean tanks. Like, it goes from a nice, crisp, smooth experience to, holy shit, I'm now in a fucking lecture watching a PowerPoint on music. It gets bad. The performance hits hard, and the only way to reset that is to restart the game. I think there's like a memory leak problem or something, but it's noticeable during some of the more intense bosses, which is a shame because then you have to restart and go back and start from the beginning, which sucks. You know, like there's no way to sugarcoat that. It fucking sucks. But I think that's just due to this being like their first big project, so they're still learning how to optimize things. So you can't really hold it against them that much, but it does bring it down a bit. And another thing that I think a lot of people should be aware of, this game has a ton of flashing lights and a ton of moving parts. I definitely think this would be an epilepsy warning for anyone that wants to try the game. And the game itself gives you an epilepsy warning in the beginning, but really take that one in because they mean it. That's a hard warning with epilepsy. So just those 2 things I think are definitely worth noting as far as like potential complaints go. But overall, I loved my time with Everhood, absolutely adored the game, and I'm giving this bad boy a 90% on the moist meter. Fantastic, and I highly recommend it to anyone that likes rhythm games or just like a fucking fun, different, unique little experience. Like, there's really nothing I've played like Everhood except Undertale, and I'm not a massive Undertale fan, most of you know that, but I'm a huge Everhood fan now. So I just wanted to make this moist meter even though it's really late to the game's release because I really enjoyed it. So that's about it. So yeah. Now let's talk about Raycon earbuds. As I've mentioned many times in the past now, I love these when it comes to doing active things such as running, which I've been really trying to get better at. Been doing about a mile every couple days, and when I do, I use Raycon earbuds to keep my shit pumping, keep me motivated listening to those boner jams, and there's no wire to get in the way and impede my ability to sprint with the best of them. So Raycon wireless earbuds I think are just really important when it comes to being active in the world. Raycon earbuds give you 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and more compact design for a comfortable noise isolating fit. So if you're trying to break from screens and don't want to feel completely unplugged, wireless earbuds from Raycon are the best way to bring your favorite content with you wherever you go. Raycon earbuds are premium wireless audio devices, but they come in at half the price of the other premium audio brands without any compromises. So Raycon wireless earbuds are just a really great option. They come in a great range of colors and patterns and a variety of fit options. So if you're interested in trying Raycon wireless earbuds for yourself, you go to buyraycon.com/moist for 15% off the purchase. Buyraycon.com/moist for 15% off, or just click the link in the description. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at a game I've waited 15 years for, Psychonauts 2, the sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, Psychonauts. I even told the story about how when I was in college going through my mysterious anime character phase, I thought it'd be really cool to have the Psychonauts disc on a chain and then wear that chain around my neck. I thought it'd be unique and be quirky. I thought people would love that, but eventually was talked out of it. Maybe I was right. Maybe that would have been the coolest fucking thing of all time, but I didn't do it. Anyway, the point is, Psychonauts is a game that's always been near and dear to my boners. It has a special place in my heart, but I never thought we'd ever see a sequel to it, and I'm so happy that not only do we now have a Psychonauts 2, but that it's extremely good. Now, there's something I want to address before getting into the game itself. As always, I stream this game on Twitch start to finish. I do that for every new release, but for Psychonauts 2, I actually had access to the game 2 days early, and that's because Jackson reached out to the company, told them I was a super fan, and they gave us 2 early codes. The stream I did was not sponsored in any way. If the game blew asshole, you would know it. Not only would I be heartbroken and inconsolable if it was bad, but I wouldn't have held anything back. It was not a paid stream or anything like that. They were just nice enough to send us 2 codes early. So now let's spread these cheeks and really get into it. The game is beautiful. I love that they didn't go for some kind of upgraded, hyper-realistic look to the game. They stuck to the cartoony, stylish roots of the first game, and I think that it really helps it. I love the aesthetic. You don't see games that look like Psychonauts 2 anymore. You just don't. It's a game that's not afraid to get extremely colorful, super trippy, like the Psy King level makes it feel like you just took 2 tabs of acid and going on a wacky, wild trip. It's a game that stands out from every other game released this year and in the last couple of years. The trend for modern games is being super dark and the only colors are different shades of gray and different saturation of blood. Psychonauts 2 is every color imaginable and then more. I just absolutely love the visuals in this game. Every mind is a completely different experience. In Psychonauts 1, I always point out Edgar's mind in particular because I really liked it a lot. I thought it was a truly beautiful environment to explore in. And in Psychonauts 2, there's multiple levels I feel that are just as good as Edgar's level visually. So I was just super happy with that. Also, the world is much bigger, the game is longer, and there's a lot more to it. They've taken everything from Psychonauts 1 and improved it across the board. Everything in Psychonauts 2 is genuinely an improvement over the first game. The only thing I feel is a bit lackluster is combat. I didn't think Psychonauts 1 combat was all that great, and I still kind of feel the same way about this one. It's not bad, it's serviceable, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just definitely not a highlight of the game. Combat boils down to just spamming the attack button a lot if you really want to rush through it, because just basic attacks do the most. You do have more options for how you approach combat. You can upgrade your Psy abilities to have them do other things. For example, maxing out Psy Blast, you get to chain the blast, so if you hit someone, it also chains the people around it. So there are more options for approaching combat, but none of them really make it more fun. It's always just kind of like there, like, yeah, here's some combat. Okay, I'm through that. I'm not upset about it. I wasn't bored, but it also wasn't like super fun either. It's just very simple, I guess is the right word for it. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing since the emphasis isn't on combat. Boss fights are a lot of fun, but that's because the mechanics they introduce and the way you approach the boss fights I think are enjoyable. But just general mob control and maybe mini bosses, they're just not super fulfilling. Even with the new additions they added to make combat more dynamic. There's another thing they added, which is these badges that you can put on your abilities that'll give you bonuses, like if you use Psy Blast, you do more damage to sensors and things like that. Which is fine, you know, you buy these badges and it makes you stronger, but it just never really makes the combat more fun. That's really the only big complaint I have about this game, and it's not even that big of a deal because the emphasis, again, isn't on combat, it's on platforming, it's on exploring, it's on its narrative. That's where this game shines. The platforming is, of course, enjoyable, as you would expect. It is a lot of fun. Exploring is super fun. There's a lot of life to the world. The world that you can explore is a lot bigger than the first one. There's more characters you can interact with. There's more side quests and side missions. You can learn a lot more. The lore is deeper, and I really found myself glued to the narrative of the game. It's super satisfying to listen to the characters talk to each other, joke around with each other. The comedic writing is well done, of course, and it's just a really fun adventure, and you're always excited to get to the next cutscene or the next bit of dialogue. I just really loved everything about the narrative here and the characters in it. The new characters they introduce, I think, are very strong. They do have some depth to them, and I love what they've done with the world. They brought in some familiar faces that we haven't seen in 15 years. Well, unless you played Rhombus of Ruin, which I didn't because I get too sick playing VR games, so I didn't actually play that one, which is pretty shameful. I am very upset that I never played it, but it's just motion sickness. That fucks me up, so I couldn't play Rhombus of Ruin. I just watched the cutscenes and watched the playthrough. So I didn't actually experience that. So I haven't personally been able to talk to these characters in a new way in 15 years now. So it was nice to be able to see some familiar faces and talk to them, learn more about them, get more information on them, joke around with them some more. I just had such a great time with this game. I think everything that this game tries to do, it does very, very well. It's a very bright, colorful, fun universe. Every person's mind that you enter is always a different experience full of different things. The mechanics in them change. For example, you go into one person's mind and it's a cooking show where you're trying to feed these gluttonous demons in order to defeat them. Then you go into someone else's mind and you're in a bowling universe where you travel around on a bowling ball. Constantly changing, constantly keeping it fresh and fun, and it's always enjoyable to progress the plot because it's a very well-written narrative with some very enjoyable, humorous moments in it. I love the game. I'd highly recommend it to anyone that's looking for an old-school, fun platformer and just a good time overall. Plugging Psychonauts 2 into the Moist Meter, I've got to give this bad boy a 90. I had a smile on my face for most of the game. I've been thinking about the game a lot even after finishing it. I just had a great time with it. So, yeah. That's about it. 15 years was worth the wait. Now let's talk about Crunchyroll. As I've mentioned multiple times now, Crunchyroll is where I go to for most of my anime. It has pretty much everything that I could imagine. I've actually been watching One Piece on Crunchyroll. As I've talked about, I'm trying to go through One Piece. I'm not super far yet, only on episode 30, so we're like halfway through One Piece. And I'm watching it on Crunchyroll because that's just the optimal choice for anime. And with Crunchyroll Premium, you have unlimited manga and anime. New episodes are up as soon as an hour after they premiere in Japan. Crisp 1080p HD quality, professional subtitles. So Crunchyroll Premium is just a absolutely great service if you like anime. And if you haven't seen any anime and are curious as to what one to start with, try Demon Slayer. I keep getting asked that question, what's a good like starter anime? Try Demon Slayer. It's on Crunchyroll. So if you're interested in trying Crunchyroll Premium, you can go ahead and click the link in the description below, or you can go to crunchyroll.com/penguinz0. That'll give you Crunchyroll Premium for 14 days for free, just to give it a try. Just a nice 14-day free trial of Crunchyroll Premium. See if you like it. That's clicking the link in the description below, or crunchyroll.com/penguinz0.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Dying Light 2, a highly anticipated sequel in a game that I was very much excited for. Recently replayed the first Dying Light just to get the juices flowing, get back in the swing of things, and get ready to put ass to face and hardcore parkour. Now, there's a lot I have to say about Dying Light 2, and not all of it's good. So let's just go ahead and start with what I really liked about it. So I think overall, the movement is an improvement over the first game. I thought the first game was pretty much perfect when it came to its movement, and yet I was proven wrong because Dying Light 2 did it better. There's new skills here that allow you a lot more freedom and a lot more options when it comes to traversing the world, and you can get around quickly. You can combo some of the moves together and make like a really long chain, and it's just free running perfected here. I've seen a lot of people say the movement's worse or that it's outright bad, and I have to wonder what the fuck they're injecting into their ass, because that is just blatantly wrong. I love the first one's movement, but I think this one is better. I've seen a lot of people say that it's floaty, and that I can agree with. I can absolutely see how it could be floaty, and at times I definitely felt that too, and I think it's because they added like a new full hop feature, which allows you to get higher faster. And by doing that, going from point A to point B, it does feel like, you know, sometimes gravity turns itself off. But for me, I just thought that was more fun. Because then it really feels like you're going at like a fucking breakneck pace and anything is possible where you can reach any height or anything that you can see you can reach through a combination of cool moves. So I really liked the movement. And I also really liked a lot of the skills they added here. There's some new skills here and then some familiar ones like the dropkick. But some of the new ones I thought really shined. I felt the skills in this game were better than the weapons for the most part. I mean that totally sincere. My best weapons were worse than my worst skills. So dropkick, for example, I could sometimes just insta-kill zombies or people by just drop kicking them at a wall that doesn't even have spikes on it, like not like a trap or anything. I didn't cheese them, but I just like set up a drop kick to go for a head stomp combo, but occasionally just the kick was enough to kill them outright. I just blast them into just an empty wall and they just vaporize. They just die on the spot. So the skills really just seem to be the actual powerhouse here when it comes to your combat options. And I'm fine with that because the skills are flashy, they're fun, and you can do a lot of cool stuff with them. Now that's not to say that this isn't all pretty familiar. It's not like a massive breakaway from Dying Light 1's gameplay, and I think that's fine because they added just enough to keep it fresh and keep it new. But don't expect it to be like a complete like wild, holy shit, I don't even know what I'm looking at. This is Dying Light meets Path of Exile with so many options, because you're not going to get it. They tried that with gear in this game where you can pick up these items like, you know, bandanas, shoes, fingerless gloves, and each of them give you different stats, but it's super arbitrary and basic. It's not fleshed out and it never really feels impactful. So like there's loot that changes some of your stats around, but it never really feels like it does anything. At least it didn't for me. So I just chose everything brawler to get a little extra damage on my one-handed or two-handed weapons, and I still never felt that it contributed much at all. Whether I had it or not, it felt about the same in terms of power. So that system wasn't fully fleshed out. Crafting system's back. It's still just as refined. It works almost exactly the same. Same with modifying, though I didn't really use very many mods in my playthrough. In fact, I didn't even really visit any merchants in my playthrough because I mainly just used the skills. I had more fun with that than just using weapons, which isn't to say the weapons are bad. They're still cool, they're creative, and they're fun. And when I did strap a couple mods on, it did make them goofier and more fun too. But again, nothing drastically different here in that department either. One change I did notice right away is the enemies take a lot less to kill in the early game. In Dying Light 1, I'm not sure how many of you remember, but those enemies were goddamn immortal at some points, it felt like, because your early game weapons didn't do enough damage and they were so fucking spongy. It took a long time. It would take 2 stamina bars to kill a single meth addict zombie, like fucking frail, barely alive, and it would still take 2 stamina bars worth of hits just to kill it. Dying Light 2, that's not the case. Things go down much quicker, and I think that's a good thing overall for the early game, because it keeps the gameplay pacing fast. This is pretty much where my compliments for the game end and where I'm going to get a little harsh on it. The game is much more focused on its story. Like, they really wanted it to shine here, so the entire early game is spent just with dialogue between characters, constantly exposition back and forth, vomiting from each other's mouths, more and more information, and a story that isn't good. The narrative is just unfortunately not great, and this game has one of the worst endings I've experienced in a AAA title in a long time. I'm sure I've said that at some point over the last decade, but this one had me scratching my head and just angry at how fucking nonsensical and bad the ending of it was. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but I do want to get that out there, that I felt like this game is an absolute mess narratively. They tried something very different from the first one where you have choices in some of your quests, and the choices do make trivial differences. Like, you do change things around, and at the time it feels like it's a big deal, but by the end of the game you realize all of those choices you made are worthless, and they don't actually contribute to the endings. There are multiple endings you can get, but your choices, like, throughout the game aren't a huge impact on where you ultimately end up. Those, like, game-changing choices are at the very end of the game. Everything that precedes it, kind of worthless. But it does feel good in the moment to like feel like you have an impact on the narrative, even if it's just the illusion of choice. But the story is really abominable. The characters are super generic, super forgettable, and sometimes some of the characters just felt like the voice actors were just pretty lazy with them. I don't feel that way about the main character, Aiden. His voice actor, Jonah Scott, I thought crushed it. I thought he was a real standout here, but everyone else just seemed like they almost phoned it in at times. And I really think it's just because the writing didn't give them a chance to shine, because it's bad writing. It's just not good. Nothing about the story worked. When it started building in the middle, I was like, oh, I could definitely see them trying to like bring this here and maybe that would be great, but they never do. They never actually set anything up and finish it. It's just a bunch of like blue balls, and then it feels like they forget about characters sometimes, so then they'll randomly show up with no explanation. It's just so much is wrong with the story, and it's really unfortunate too. Almost everyone agrees that the first Dying Light story was dog shit, and somehow they did it even worse this time around. And it's because I think they put so much emphasis on it. Like, every single thing you do in this game ties into like a cutscene or dialogue between characters, so you're constantly getting inundated with the story that is just not good. It is just not working. The side quests, however, I actually thought the side quests were better than the mainline quests. I didn't do a ton of side quests, but the ones I did do actually felt good. Like, the side quest, like, they had a complete story with these characters that you meet for a brief period of time. You get some closure on some of them, and it feels pretty weighty and impactful. And that was nice. The side quests I actually enjoyed a lot more than going through the main story, which is surprising. So whoever worked on those definitely wasn't on board for the main quests, I would speculate, because god damn. Now, moving on from the story, there's a lot of quality of life improvements that I really appreciate, but there's one thing they added in here that I just couldn't get over in the early game. The stamina system that they introduced here is different from the first one. When you're climbing shit, you have the stamina meter that is constantly ticking down, and it makes it so you just can't climb things you feel like you should because your character just runs out of breath and falls and dies. The stamina is unforgiving in the early game until you get to like level 3 or 4 stamina. Then you can finally start to explore what you want to explore. But until then, it just feels like it arbitrarily slows you down by not letting you explore these places because your stamina is not high enough. So I really didn't like that system that they introduced there. But most of the other quality of life things they added, I did appreciate. That one just stood out as a real not fun thing that got brought on board here that I'd like to just briefly mention. And of course, I need to talk about the glitches in this game. A ton of people are experiencing game-breaking bugs, file corruptions, whole files being deleted out of nowhere, and tons of problems. I played on the PC. I didn't experience any glitches until the end of the game. And for 2 hours, all of my cutscenes were broken. They'd play out like a kid playing with action figures. They didn't actually animate or move, so it'd just be ghosts holding things and the objects they were supposed to be interacting with floating, and it was so enjoyably goofy. Of course, it was broken, and I could have fixed it by exiting to the main menu or closing the game or something, but I just got so drawn in to the goofiness of these broken cutscenes. I actually started caring more about the story when the cutscenes weren't working, honestly. But up until that point, I didn't experience any glitches other than the occasional zombies getting stuck somewhere, or some prompts not working right away, or clipping, but nothing that ruined the experience. But that last one with the cutscenes, that was a fucking crazy one. Another thing that I definitely want to bring up is this game is much less intense than the first game. In the first game, going out at night was terrifying. You were probably going to die. The last thing you wanted to do was be out at night in the early game because you were going to get your shit fucking rocked, your cheeks clapped. Being out at night was dangerous. There were so many zombies in the world that were also dangerous. In this game, Dying Light 2, there's almost no zombies in the game in general. They're always like hiding out indoors, and even when you go indoors, they don't really get alerted and they don't really fight back. Going out at night isn't a problem at all. They usually can't catch you, and if they do, they don't really do anything to you. They just like let you go. They'll like shake you down for your lunch money quickly, like give you one slap and then pat you on the ass as you run by. Like, being out at night is no problem in Dying Light 2. The chase system they have here takes so long to hit like 4-star wanted level, the level 4 chase, that you'll just never actually hit that unless you're trying to like farm or something maybe. But even when you do hit that level 4 chase, it's still not nearly as hard as it was in Dying Light 1. The zombies just don't play any role in this game. Narratively, the zombies are non-existent. Everything in this game has to do with the peacekeepers versus like the bizarre survivors and just other people in general. It's only human versus human. There's almost no zombies that you'll encounter playing through the missions at all, including the side quests. The zombies just don't even exist in this game in general unless you go out at night, and even then it's minimal. So that kind of blew me away. Really surprised me just to see how little zombies there were in a zombie game. There isn't a single time you even fight a volatile. It's just crazy. Like, I don't understand why. I think they really just got so lost in this narrative that they seem to be proud of that they just forgot that zombies even existed in the world to begin with. So plugging Dying Light 2 into the moist meter, I'm giving it a 65%. Overall, I enjoyed my time with it, but there were a lot of problems with the game. I think the gameplay shines. I think the gameplay is on par with, or even at points better than the first game, but there are a lot of other factors that really do hold it back, which is unfortunate, but like I said, overall I did enjoy my time with the game, and yeah, that's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Elden Ring. That's a sentence I never thought I'd say. I was one of those lunatic conspiracy theorists that didn't think Elden Ring was real and was never going to release, and now I'm out here eating my own ass. The game is out, and it is absolutely outstanding. I'm sure by now the majority of you have seen the reviews. 10 out of 10 is pretty much across the board, 100% on most major outlets. This thing is the goddamn valedictorian of gaming, it seems. And I will say, it lives up to the hype. It is absolutely fucking fantastic. It is an actual masterpiece. Now, I will say, with the PC version, which is what I played it on, there is one major flaw, and it's the only flaw I can even point out in this game at all. It is an inconsistent frame rate. There was a lot of times where the game would just chug along during an intense fight, or if the terrain just became like overwhelmed with enemies. Then the frames would drop to like 15 FPS for just a couple of seconds, but it was enough to get you killed, because all of a sudden the game's lagging and you can't dodge in time, so you get fucked up. That is the only complaint I have about the game, and it's being addressed from the From Software team, from what I read. So that's going to be fixed, and after that, I have no complaints. I think everything that they did with Elden Ring, they did masterfully. Just like everyone's saying, the game is the culmination of everything From Software learned over the last decade or so of making the Souls series, plus Bloodborne and Sekiro, all rolled into the perfect package. Just this amazing entree, this beautiful dish that's so tasty even Gordon Ramsay would shit himself and come at the same time. It is unbelievable what they've been able to do here. Going into this knowing it was going to be open world, I expected it to just be kind of open world, like a pseudo open world. Not really fully realized, pretty primitive, because it's their first foray into that kind of ballpark. And I thought they were just going to dip their toes in it. They didn't. They dipped their entire fucking sack in here. They cannonballed into this pool. The world is massive. Absolutely massive, and it doesn't feel tedious to traverse, and it also doesn't feel dead, because there's a lot of enemies and there's a lot of just like open world mini bosses scattered throughout, dragons that you can kill, and just exploring, you'll find caves, you'll find unique items, you'll find unique NPCs that'll end up going back to one of the hub worlds, and you can talk to them, learn more about them, complete quest lines from them. It is so good. It really blew me away with just how big the world was. The scope of this game is unlike anything I was expecting going into it. And there's so many layers to it. There's not just one surface level area to explore. It also goes deep underground. For example, there was this elevator in the middle of the forest that I found where you pay a couple keys, you get to unlock it, you go down, and it's unironically like a 6-minute uninterrupted elevator ride straight to hell. And by the time you get to the bottom, you get to this beautiful riverbank, and it is a massive area. There's like 4 different Lost Graces, which is your bonfires basically, and it's so huge. I think there's 3 bosses there. The main one is this deer spirit that you can revive and fight, and the deer spirit has a great soundtrack that backs it. The entire thing is just so cool, and it's just from exploring and finding this elevator. It's amazing just how much there is here. There's so many zones, and all of them are huge and so full of life. In that riverbank zone that I'm talking about right now, there's these like ghost archers that are aimbotting, so every time you try and go by them, they just fucking blast you, and it makes you really mad, but you can't help but be like, they're kind of cute though, like they're kind of beautiful looking. So you're like dodging these, well, you can't really dodge them. You're trying to like not get blasted by these archers as you're trying to light pillars to fight the deer spirit. There's just so much to do. The scale of this game is amazing, and there's so many bosses. I think the final tally is there's 83 unique bosses in the game, or no, there's 83 bosses and 77 of them are entirely unique. So it's crazy. Like there's so much to do. I absolutely love everything about it, and I'm not an open world guy, but exploring this game just felt alive, and it felt like I was constantly able to find things to do and just find interesting shit, whether it's going through dungeons, finding caves, and going through whatever boss was in the cave. There's just so much. There's so much. Even the quests are fun. Like, for example, I met Kenneth. Kenneth is a guy who likens himself to the ruler of Limgrave, or the heir to it at least, and his fort was taken over by this knight. I end up going to kill the knight, go back to Kenneth. Kenneth goes to the fort and he's all depressed and shit. And it was just a cool little cute storyline, and Kenneth was an interesting character. But it's something that I haven't really done in Dark Souls, which is pay attention to the story. Dark Souls has always had huge lore, like a really deep lore, but it doesn't spoon feed it to you. In Elden Ring, I felt a lot more ingrained in the narrative. I felt like I was getting a lot more out of the story, more so than any of the other Souls titles. I don't know if that's because George R.R. Martin was loosely attached to this. I don't really know what role he had in here. Full disclosure, I don't know what the fuck George did, whether he just blasted a fart near the game and they just put his name on it. I couldn't tell you. But regardless, the story here is a lot more digestible, and there is a lot more to actually get from the game itself, as opposed to having to go out and like look up lore videos on YouTube or deeply explore the terrain to find like some kind of obscure writing on a wall or an obscure weapon that has a little lore to it. It actually does feed you a lot of information about characters through the quest lines and the side quests, as well as just the actual general narrative of the story and what's pushing you forward, which I appreciated because I think it's interesting. I think the entire universe here is interesting. Now, I will come out and say I haven't beaten the game yet. I'm 30 hours into the game roughly, and I just have fallen in love with it, which I expected to like it because Souls-like games are my favorite games. It's my favorite genre. And this is one of the very few moist meters I'm making before completing the product, but I'm just so enthusiastic about it, and I'm certain that it's not going to all of a sudden just fucking drop off at the end. It's only going to continue to get better. I think it'll probably be another 10, 15 hours before I actually just complete the main line and go back and even do more extra bosses, explore deeper, come up with more builds. There's so much to do in the game. So I really just wanted to give all of my thoughts on it right now. So gameplay, it's what you're used to from Souls-like genre. If you haven't played a Souls game before, get ready to get your asshole spread wide open. This game is brutal. I will say this was one of the harder Souls games, and maybe it's because I was doing everything at a pretty low level because I like the challenge, but it is very difficult. Most players immediately hit a wall on the very first major enemy encounter, the first boss being the Tree Sentinel, which is the horseback golden halberd boss. A lot of people take 50, 60 deaths in order to beat them because they don't realize you can run by him, which I think the game tries to encourage you to do because most players aren't going to be able to beat him at level 1. I was able to because I'm a fucking turbo gamer. I'm an elite gamer barbarian. I beat him in 21 tries, but most people take more than that, or they just run by him and come back, which is, I think, the play you're supposed to make. But yeah, the game is hard. Expect that. I'm glad that they didn't tone it down and neuter it. I'm glad they didn't water it down or anything. I enjoy the challenge. However, I will say a lot of the challenge came from self-imposed rules upon myself. I didn't use any summons for any of the bosses or anything like that. And I do think if you do use summons, to explain further, it's a new mechanic in the game where you can get these spirits that you can summon to help you fight, only in certain areas. You can't use them everywhere, but in a lot of boss fight situations and a lot of just general areas, you can summon like wolf spirits. You can even summon a giant knight to help you. You can summon a fucking jellyfish if you want to help you. You can even summon a senile old man who just walks around and gets killed, but he's kind of goofy. You can summon helpers to help you out, as opposed to just summoning a player or something to help you. You have a built-in mechanic to summon NPCs that will fight alongside you with some of the bosses, as well as just general helping. So I think the game can be super accessible for someone that's not familiar with the genre, and can be a pretty easy experience if you're able to leverage these summons well and use them as like a way of drawing aggro away from yourself during a boss fight, and then you can set some attacks up or spells. So I do think there is a way of playing this in an easier way. I chose not to use the summons because I just prefer it that way. I think it's more fun for me personally, but I have nothing against people who do use summons. And the game isn't like shy about letting you use it. It's part of the mechanics. And even before a lot of bosses, you can summon a helper outside of your spirit summons. So for example, one of the first major bosses past the Tree Sentinel, like the actual first story major boss, is Margit. And right before going to Margit, you can summon a guy named Roger, who's just an NPC that you can touch the summon sign for. Roger comes in, and he'll just like goofily cast some weak spells, but he helps draw aggro. He can help take the heat off you. So there is absolutely ways of playing this in an easier way, and I think that's great to give those players a way of handling some tough encounters, and just more mechanics is always a good thing. So I like having the summons, especially for just clearing out trash mobs in an area. Another brand new feature in Elden Ring is of course one of the major ones, which is horseback riding. You get a mount where you can actually fight things while mounted, and it's great. I will say the mounted combat isn't super deep or anything like that, though I don't think they were going for it. It's mainly a way of quickly traversing the landscape as well as just giving you options in an open world fight. So if you're fighting a dragon, in order to close the distance faster, you hop on horseback, then you hop off to attack the dragon, or you can just stay on the horse and just get some slaps in on the dragon before it flies away again because it's a fucking pussy. So I do like the horseback riding mechanic. I do like the fighting on it, though I don't think it's like as crazily deep as some people were making it out to be. It is still very fun, very effective, and the horse can double jump, which is pretty badass. Another thing I was really surprised about is just how many new things they added to the game. I was expecting this to be kind of just more Souls without a whole ton added, but no, they really went all in. Like, aside from just the summoning mechanics, aside from the open world, aside from the horse, they just added so many other features into this game that I didn't expect at all. So you have a lot of different options now. Not just new weapons, not just like new build possibilities, new spells, all that, but just in general you have a lot of other options. So you can change your weapon arts on the fly by just using different ashes. You have the ability to block an attack and immediately counterattack, a guard counter. So if you just successfully block an attack, you don't have to parry it. If you block it and immediately follow it up with a strong, you can do a lot of poise damage to whatever enemy attacked you, and you can just kind of fuck them right in the butt pretty hard because you take almost no damage from a successful block, and you can immediately counterattack. So think of it this way: if someone's blasting a whole combo at you, maybe you dodge the first two, and then block the last one, and then you can get that strong counter for big damage to maybe stagger them for a visceral. There's just a lot of options, and there's now a dedicated jump button. I didn't realize just how fucking cool a dedicated jump button would be in Souls. I've always liked the idea of it as like a wet dream, but actually having it here is such a nice treat, and it gives you more options in a fight again. So you can do like a jumping strong attack, which does a lot of damage, as well as a lot of poise break, so again you can stagger an enemy and get a visceral off of it. So there's just a lot of new things here, all of which are welcomed additions to the formula. I absolutely love everything about Elden Ring. I think it is tied with Bloodborne for the most beautiful of the Souls series, and my god, I just can't get enough of it. Again, I don't usually like open world games, but I can't help but just explore every nook and cranny of the Elden Ring terrain. There's just so much life to the game, and I fucking love it. Plugging Elden Ring into the moist meter, I'm giving it a 95%. It would have been a 98 because I really do think this is as close to perfect as you can get with like an open world action game, but the performance problems are really widespread, so while I myself didn't have too bad of a time with the FPS dropping or crashing or any problems with the PC, I know a lot of other players did, and it is a pretty widespread issue that will hopefully be addressed very soon, but as of right now, that is the only major problem with the game. But once they iron that out, I actually just cannot think of a single thing that this game doesn't do well. Yeah, there's a couple of bugs and glitches, but it's a massive open world game. Of course, there's going to be a couple moments where you clip into a rock in the middle of nowhere. None of them are game breaking. There is, however, a little bugginess to the horse that does kind of fuck you sometimes, where if you try and get on the horse too quickly, you might just freeze yourself. But that open world game horse always going to be buggy, and it's so infrequent that it never becomes a huge glaring issue. I really can't imagine a better Souls game or a better open world action game in general. It's so well done, and only a couple of super minor hiccups, like a couple of blemishes. Like, it's nothing major. It is so incredibly polished and so well done. Elden Ring is nothing shy of a landmark achievement for From Software. The game is absolutely amazing. That's about it. See ya.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap. Issue 3 is out right now at godslapbook.com. You can find links below in the description. Go check it out.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Jedi Survivor. I'm sure you've all seen the headlines about how awful the game is due to performance problems. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to factor that into our advanced scientific calculations when rating this game because it would be ridiculous to overlook a $70 game shipping in the state that this one has. It's poorly optimized across all platforms, but most notably, it's horrendous on PC. Like 99% of people's computers can't run this game consistently at 60 frames, which is just an unforgivable sin. $70 for a game that doesn't even meet the baseline standard of AAA quality that you'd expect is laughable. Which is an absolute shame because the game itself is good, but I absolutely have to mention how awful the performance is because most people aren't even going to be able to enjoy the game. You're watching a slideshow sometimes, it's got so many problems, and I don't want to hear any of that mumbo-jumbo about how, well, Charles, don't you know they're planning on fixing the game and patching it right now? Old St. Nicholas at EA's got all his little elves, all his little helpers working on it tirelessly to fix the game for the gamers out there because they care. I say that's a goddamn load of dirty barnacles. This trend of push it out now, fix it later is garbage. I fucking hate it. And anyone who has that take of like, oh, it's so entitled to expect a game to work when you pay $70 for it, I'd say that take isn't worth a doggone set of donuts. Like, it's a bunch of baloney. The game, when you buy it, should work. It should be functional. It should be in a good state. That shouldn't be a hot take. So yes, the worst part of Jedi Survivor is the performance. Everything you've read is accurate for the majority of people who are going to be playing the game. I got lucky enough where my problems on PC were pretty minor. They were not game-breaking, but I recognize I got lucky. That's not going to be every player's experience, at least not until patches roll out. So I would say definitely wait on the game no matter what. But let me get into the game itself, because like I said, it's good. Now, Jedi Fallen Order, I liked a lot. I was blown away by how much I enjoyed the combat in particular, but it had flaws. It had a lot of jankiness to it. It was a bit wonky at times. Unfortunately, with Jedi Survivor, I feel like they didn't really polish that jankiness to it. Like, there's some hitboxes that still just go Insano style. Like, they just have a mind of their fucking own. There's a ghost in the machine, and that ghost wants to fuck you in the ass, because sometimes these hitboxes make no sense. It was a problem that existed in Fallen Order, and it's still here in Jedi Survivor. There's also a huge emphasis on just fighting a lot of local wildlife, which are the biggest culprits of the worst hitboxes in the game, so sometimes it begins to become a bit of a headache, but the gameplay itself is still really fun. It's not like a drastic improvement over Jedi Fallen Order, but I do recognize some quality of life improvements, and I really did enjoy it a lot. There's a lot of stances to go between. You have your standard single saber, you've got your double-ended saber, you've got dual wielding. I don't want to spoil too many other ones because I don't know how much has been revealed in trailers and stuff, but there's also two other wacky ones that are really fun. One of them, I will say one of them, I don't know if this is a minor spoiler, but be warned, there's a blaster stance where you get to use a lightsaber and a blaster, and that's the one that I kind of just mained for the entire game, and it never stopped being fun. There's a lot of versatility to the combat. The skill trees are pretty expansive, but unfortunately a lot of the skills I found to be really worthless. Like, they don't do a whole lot. I played this on Jedi Grandmaster difficulty, so maybe that's it because everything's pretty spongy, but a lot of the abilities in the skill tree, the Force ones, they just weren't super useful. The animations are really long, so they lock you down for a while, so you just end up getting punished when you try and use them against a boss fight, or God forbid if you take a fucking stupid pill and try and use them in a horde of enemies, you just get blasted. It's just a lot of the Force abilities didn't have a huge purpose for my playthrough, so I didn't find myself using them a lot. And I'm talking about Force abilities for the saber stances. The other Force abilities like Force Push, Force Pull, lift, slam, all of those were always useful and a lot of fun to toy around and experiment with. You could cheese a lot of things with a Force Pull if you upgraded it. But overall, I don't have any major complaints about the combat other than, of course, some jankiness and the feeling that they didn't really take a huge step forward with their combat from Jedi Fallen Order. Though I guess they didn't need to because it was just so much fun in the last one too. So I enjoyed it, but don't expect anything crazy from it if you played Jedi Fallen Order. You're getting a lot of what you're used to, which for a lot of people, like me, is fine. Now, luckily this game is a long game, so you're going to have plenty of time to have fun with the combat and toy around with finding some optimal strategies that suit your playstyle. It took me a long time going through it. I did a lot of the side content. I killed pretty much every legendary boss, and that's like a minor complaint I have. There's only 2 legendary bosses that aren't just recolors of normal enemies with a name, and that's Ogdo and the Rancor. Everything else is literally just the normal enemies that you encounter, but this time they have a name like Ugmog or something, but it's the exact same moveset, the exact same everything, they just have a name now. And their health bar isn't even that much bigger. So the legendary enemies, while a cool concept, was pretty underwhelming past Ogdo and the Rancor. And fuck Ogdo and fuck Spawn of Ogdo. I killed both of them. I even did the double Ogdo fight where you fight Spawn and Ogdo together. I fucking triumphed on Jedi Grandmaster difficulty, probably the only one in the world that did it, so I'm a real champion out there. Point is though, there's a lot of time to play around with the combat, though I do think the legendary bosses had a lot more potential than was realized here. And outside of that, the game's just massive. There's a whole lot to explore. I did a lot of exploring. There's challenges that you can do, like parkour challenges for skill points, as well as just upgrades. It's just a huge game. I was blown away by like the size of the worlds, like, and how much there was to do of it in there. There wasn't a ton of worlds to visit, which I think for a lot of people might be disappointing, but the worlds that you do get to visit are massive, with a lot to them. A lot of puzzles, a lot of parkour. The parkour is fun, the puzzles are fun, although the puzzles aren't exactly brain busters. The parkour always makes it enjoyable and it's super smooth. There's also a lot of wacky, zany characters in this game that even offer fun little mini-games. Like there's a whole Hollow Tactics mini-game, which is a little strategy game within the game where you fight units against other NPCs, and the units that you can use for your squad are units that you scanned in the main game. So you'll kill a Rancor, for example, you'll scan it, and then you can use it in the game. Although I don't think you can use the Rancor, so bad example. But you kill enemies, you scan them, then you get their card to use in that minigame, which is cool. There's also a gardening minigame, which is cool. There's just a lot to do. I was really surprised by just how much depth there was. There's a lot of meat on the bones of this game. Now let's get to the narrative. I've been putting that off because I have such mixed feelings on it. I really like Jedi Fallen Order's story. I had a great time with the narrative. I thought they built up something special. In Jedi Survivor, I felt the same way. I actually thought they did a great job with the story. I was drawn in immediately. I really think a lot of the characters they introduce here, as well as like the big bad, was very cool and compelling, and I don't know if this is a spoiler, so just in case, another minor spoiler warning. It deals with the High Republic, and I always think that's such a cool setting to explore and a cool time period to explore for Star Wars, so the High Republic plays a crucial role in the narrative. However, this is where my feelings get mixed. The game really loses its footing in the final act, and not even the final act, really like the final 10%. It's really just right towards the end. They had great narrative beats throughout. I really thought they were fucking hitting a great stride. I was a little underwhelmed that the Empire was kind of absent for a lot of it. You were mainly dealing with raiders, but that's not a huge complaint. I thought overall they were doing a great job with the story right up until the end. It seemed like they had a great idea, and the idea itself for what happens at the end is great, but the motivation behind it and exactly why things are happening the way they are gets very silly, and you have to suspend disbelief and just accept, wow, this is happening because the characters are fucking stupid. Like, that's the narrative point. They're blinded by stupidity, and that's why what's happening right now is happening. Which just isn't very satisfying as a plot point, like, so it's because everyone's fucking dumb all of a sudden. Everyone's just a buffoon now. Got it. So that's why this final act is happening like this. So that was really disappointing because I don't think they stuck the landing, but I do like where the game leaves off, and I'm really excited to see them explore more in the future because I'm pretty sure they plan this as a trilogy, so I'm really excited to see where everything picks up. But overall, there were so many great moments from the story. I can't be like mad about it. I do still think I walk away from this game with a very positive impression of the story, minus that very last bit towards the end of the game. And now just a little nitpick. Throughout my game, I put on a poncho after defeating Spawn of Ogdo, and that fucking thing would not stop glitching out. But not only that, so many times there was a ton of visual bugs and noise from like the characters. So like I'll be fighting two enemies and all of a sudden their cloaks will just start spiraling out of control and taking up my entire screen, fucking blinding me. Like all kinds of like wildness. So there, even outside of performance problems, there are just some like bugs that happen pretty often throughout the game, but not the biggest deal in the world to me. It's not something I get super upset about, but just something to make note of. And like the final boss fight, there was moments where I was just getting teleported around and like attacked in the void, which was clearly not supposed to happen. So there are just some bugs to be aware of. Overall though, one other thing I want to mention, the soundtrack fucking slaps. Absolutely fucking slaps. Star Wars soundtrack always goes hard though, but I just always like to make a special mention when it just pops off the way this game does. I just love the soundtrack. Now, plugging Jedi Survivor into the Moist Meter, I'm unfortunately going to have to give it a 70%, and that's mainly because of the performance problems. In fact, 70 is even kind of high. I really can't stress enough how strongly I feel about how bad the business practice is of just shipping a game out knowing it's in a bad state where a lot of players won't be able to enjoy it. That shit makes me so upset. The performance issues hinder this game greatly. Without that, I'd probably give it like an 85%, pretty much exactly what I gave Fallen Order, because I really think both games are really good. I don't think this game was a massive step forward over Jedi Fallen Order, but it was still extremely enjoyable, and I had a great time with it, and it's just, once again, a shame that it shipped the way that it did. I'm confident they are going to fix those problems going forward, so I would say definitely hold off on buying this for a while until those patches are in place. And that's about it. As most of you know, we started our own comic book series called Godslap. Everyone who's read Godslap so far has unanimously agreed that it's the best comic ever produced, and Godslap is well on its way to becoming the biggest name in all of comics, overthrowing Marvel within the next 5 years, according to recent scientific projections that I'm pulling out of my ass. It's a passion project created by myself, Jackson, Danny, and Matt, and we brought in an industry veteran named Aubrey Sitterson to help write it with us, and we're extremely proud of what we've created. Issue 1 and 2 are already out, and Issue 3 came out today, as of right now. Issue 3 is available at godslapbook.com, and per usual, this is the standard cover, but we also have 2 limited edition variants, which will only exist until they're sold out, and they'll never be reprinted. So they're available at godslapbook.com. The Moist Meter is a proud partner of our comic book series Godslap and Plague Seeker. Both are available at badegg.co, link in the description. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I had high expectations of this game. I really liked Breath of the Wild, so I wanted this game to slap, and it did. This is a banger. It did not disappoint. Now I'm going to go ahead and give real quick thoughts before getting into the meat of it, because I just want to get the quick and dirty out of the way immediately. Most astute observers will notice that this game isn't some kind of incredible graphical update or wild departure from Breath of the Wild. It's very similar. And that's true. Your eyes aren't deceiving you. They're not playing tricks on you. Tears of the Kingdom is very similar to Breath of the Wild, but it is a better Breath of the Wild. It is an improved Breath of the Wild. And that being said, that doesn't mean it's just a $70 DLC. This has so much more content in it, as well as entirely new creative systems with all of the Ultra Hand abilities, and everything that you can do in this game is shit you couldn't do in Breath of the Wild. It is substantially more content, so it is just the better Breath of the Wild. The map is the same for the most part, yes, like the actual core surface map, but they added the Sky Islands as well as the depths, both of which are huge, and they offer a lot to do. So it's not like it's short on content. It took me like 25 hours to beat start to finish without doing most of the side quests, by the way. So, I mean, that did mean I was getting one shot by like every enemy ever. It turns into a goddamn fucking Soulsborne challenge fundamentally for me, but that made it even more fun for me. But the point is, it's a long game. This isn't just a $70 DLC, and I want to make that clear. There is so much they added to this, and it is all incredible. It makes it the best version of Breath of the Wild possible. Now, I want to go ahead and get some of my big complaints out of the way, really my only complaints out of the way immediately as well. All of the complaints I have really are because it's on the Switch. I can't even really hold it against the game itself. It sucks playing a game this beautiful, a full-blown, full-boner Red Alert masterpiece at 30 frames per second. That is a crime. To take something so beautiful and spit on it with 30 frames per second because of the Switch's limited capabilities is insulting. I know you can't see me right now, but I just slapped my chair. I'm getting so animated and heated about it. There is no excuse for 2023 gaming to have 30 FPS. That's just a fucking Switch classic because Nintendo is an archaic group of fossils that refuse to upgrade and get with the times and make modern hardware. So the Switch face fucks it here with 30 frames, which sucks. So it doesn't really get a chance to shine in a modern light, so a lot of people immediately write it off as being dated and not worth $70, which is so fucking silly, but it is a legitimate complaint. To want 60 FPS in 2023 is not something that's unreasonable, and it's not entitled gamer shit. It's just the standard that you would expect from AAA quality, especially at the $70 price tag, by the way. So yeah, that is absolutely a big problem. And of course, because it's on the Switch, the visuals can only be so good. The graphics can only look so nice. Luckily, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, much like Breath of the Wild, is carried heavily by its art direction. It does a lot of heavy lifting for its visuals in order to mask the limitations of its hardware. So thanks to very good choices with its art and visuals, it's able to transcend the stinkiness of the graphical fidelity. Like, it's not a big complaint for me, but I understand people that are used to modern games are once again going to be like, wow, this looks like shit. I mean, and that's just the Switch, baby. That's that goofy, quirky little thing doing what it does best. Reminding us that Nintendo is very out of touch. It's fucking running off like 50-year-old hardware. It was dated when it released, and now it's even more dated now. I can rant about the Switch all day and night. I'm still shocked it's not using dial-up. I can't believe they even have a model that has an Ethernet port on it. I wouldn't even think they'd bother. But yeah, those are my main complaints. That it's 30 FPS, and yes, the graphics aren't amazing, but I really do think that when you're in the game, there are breathtaking moments. Like, I think it looks beautiful a lot of the times, and it's complemented by an absolutely spectacular soundtrack. So now it's time to start going gushing granny mode here. Tears of the Kingdom it's probably my second favorite Zelda game, just behind Ocarina of Time, and the only thing that holds Ocarina of Time over Tears of the Kingdom for me is the nostalgia. That is a game that is so near and dear to my heart that I don't think any Zelda game will ever beat it, but Tears of the Kingdom is, I think, the best Zelda game, like, really. The amount of freedom you have in this game, not only with exploration, of course you come to expect that, but also with the way you tackle everything. Puzzles have even more freedom for solving. Like Breath of the Wild, you can solve them in crazy ways, but in Tears of the Kingdom, it gets even fucking wilder. The tools they give you to play around with are just a joy to experiment with. So I'm sure you've already seen a lot of the memes and a lot of the videos created using one of the powers called Ultra Hand. In this game, you get powers that allow you to do things in the world, such as manipulate objects, manipulate machinery and technology. So you have like fans, you have rockets, you have all kinds of cool things at your disposal. And with one of the abilities called Ultra Hand, you can pick it up and move it around and stick it together. So you can build entire houses out of it. You've probably seen people build a functioning mech. So you could put together a bunch of different materials, a bunch of weapons as well, and turn it on, and you can control a mech and wander around the world in a goddamn fucking Gundam. It is so fun. And when you're solving puzzles in this game, it's always like enjoyable, because most of the time you're probably not even going to do it the way they intended. There's a set path for a lot of them, but you can tackle it however you want. They don't punish you for it. You can get as wacky as you want to get. I think 90% of the puzzles in this game, I did not solve the intended method. I used all kinds of stupid shit, like putting two fans together and then a steering wheel and then just flying around on a little like hoverboard Segway. It's just so fun what you can build with all of the tools here and how you can approach everything, including combat. So there's another ability called Recall, which is you can use Recall on certain objects and certain things, and it'll just take it back through the process of wherever it was moving or whatever it was doing at the time. So you can even make traps out of this. You can take like 3 logs and a wheel, stick the logs onto the wheel and spin it around in a circle with Ultra Hand, and then drop it. And then you can recall it, and then it'll start spinning all on its own, and you can take that, and you can lure enemies into it, and it'll just start beating the shit out of enemies. It'll be like a wipeout thing, or like a fucking MXC, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, Takeshi's Castle type of obstacle course. You can make them run through this gauntlet of traps. It's so fun. Like, it never gets old experimenting with it. You can make an Apache helicopter. Like, the possibilities are truly limitless. So I cannot praise that system enough. I think it is so fun. And of course, it also has fusing, which is its core gameplay mechanic. So fusing allows you to take these objects in the world and you can fuse them to weapons. Pretty much everything is fusible. Like, if you can dream it, if you can touch it, you can probably fuse it. So like, for example, if you go to a bomb flower, you can fuse the bomb to your shield, and then when you do a shield surf, where you jump onto your shield and surf around, the bomb will blow up and give you a giant boost, a giant jump, which to me honestly reminds me of old Legend of Zelda speedrunning with bomb boosting, so that was a cute callback. I don't know if it's on purpose, but like there's just so many capabilities with fusing. You can fuse bosses' toenails to your swords to give them an attack power boost. You can fuse different gems to your weapons in order to give them different qualities like lightning, fire, shooting fireballs. It's so good. It's so fun, and it makes everything a really great experience. Until, of course, your weapon breaks, because the durability in this game, you'll swing it 3 times and break it on a fucking log or something. Durability system's back. I'm not mad about that. It's the only thing I really didn't like about Breath of the Wild, like, as a core mechanic. I just find, and this is across the board, not just Legend of Zelda, that durability systems are kind of an anti-fun mechanic, where it's just tedium for the sake of tedium. Yeah, like, I understand there can be a durability system, like, for this game, I think the durability system would have made sense on weapons that you fuse, that when you fuse a weapon, it has a certain amount of hits before the whole thing breaks. That would make sense. But there could still be core weapons that didn't need to break, or at least not make it so harsh when it comes to how quickly a lot of these weapons break. Because what ends up happening is, this is a personal preference again, there's many people that like the durability system, I'm just voicing how I feel about it. For me, when there's a system like this, I end up hoarding so many weapons thinking I'll use them later, and I ended up finishing this game with 10 weapons that I'd been saving for like 12 hours, just waiting for the right time because I was afraid to lose them. Now, there is a way of repairing these items, but it's really convoluted and tedious once again. You have to feed it to an Octo Rock. I guess it's not the most convoluted thing, but you feed it to an Octo Rock, and it's a process that is kind of a headache. So, the durability system, I'm not a huge fan of, but many people will be, so I'm not going to necessarily chalk it up as a negative. I just wish it wasn't so cutthroat. I don't like cycling through weapons that frequently. Now let's move on a little bit here and talk about the narrative. It's very standard, generic shit. It's not going to really blow you away. Granted, I haven't got the true ending yet. I haven't finished all the memories, so maybe there's a lot more there that really fleshes it out. But it's not a whole lot to it. And it's also following the same Zelda formula we're all used to by now. So you're going to these temples, you're talking to these sages, you're fighting a boss at the end of the temple after setting up 4 or 5 networks that connect to the center platform to raise you up. Pretty standard stuff. But one thing that I actually didn't like at all is that when you do a temple, no matter what temple, you get the exact same ending to the temple, verbatim. You get a cutscene after defeating the temple boss, and they say the exact same shit with the exact same words, and the only difference is the race of the person that you have saved here or brought aboard your team. So that was a little frustrating that it was literally verbatim, so you kept getting fed the same fucking cutscene over and over again throughout the game, at least in the core story components for the main objectives. But it's not that big of a deal. That's a bit of a nitpick. I just would have liked them to maybe do something a little different there, but again, most people I can't imagine are actually playing Zelda for like an incredible story. I actually like most of the lore to Zelda, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the games are extremely well written, because half the dialogue throughout the main objectives is them repeating everything they've said a million times already. Oh, the imprisoning war is when this happened? Wait, Link, you're telling me that the imprisoning war is when this happened with Ganondorf? The Demon King? Wait, the Demon King and the imprisoning war, so you're telling me that this is what happened? And they'll say that a million fucking times. And no matter who you talk to in like the towns, they all say the same shit. Like they're all just fucking like cursed to have the same thoughts. But again, that's not a huge deal, because that's not what the game is really focusing on. But I will say, even if the writing isn't like incredible, the story beats are really fun, and they lead to really great, spectacular boss fights, as well as really pretty moments that I really had a smile on my face for. Even if some of them were outrageously goofy and silly, they were still very fun. So that's what's most important here. Zelda is just all about the fun, and this is like the most fun Zelda they've made so far. I think it just goes so hard. I think it is just truly spectacular. Now let's talk a little bit about the Sky Islands and the depths. So most of the marketing material revolved around the Sky Islands. So that you would expect to be really great. And it is. I really like all the Sky Island components. I actually didn't spend a ton of time up there, admittedly, but all of the stuff that did filter through it was a lot of fun. And they give you a lot of tools to make it fun. Like, you can make an entire fucking airplane up there if you wanted to and just live in the Sky Islands. You never even have to touch the surface world. It's really pretty, and there is quite a lot to do up there. It adds a lot. And then, of course, the depths. The depths, you go underground, and it is a huge network of very powerful enemies, as well as something called gloom, where it'll start taking away hearts. Not permanently, it just restricts your access to those hearts, so you can't, like, eat and get that heart back. You have to remove the gloom or go back to the surface world. And there's a lot to do there. They have powerful weapons, they have a lot of stuff, there's whole quest lines that go through there. So both the Sky Islands and Depths offer a lot of content and a lot of exploration and a lot more to do. So again, it's not just the same Breath of the Wild map and nothing else. It is the same map with some tweaks and some additions to it, as well as entire new sections with the Sky Islands and the Depths, which are just as big, if not bigger, than the stuff you can do on the surface. So I just really like the game a lot. I'm trying to talk about it as much as I can without spoiling a lot, even though I feel like I've already told you a lot of the mechanics that many of you probably haven't seen before, but they're just so fun I can't help but just bring them up. So sorry for any minor spoilers. But anyway, let's plug Tears of the Kingdom in the Moist Meter. I'm going to give this puppy a nice clean 90%. I think the game is spectacular, and it is only held back by the platform that it's on. If this game was on anything but the Switch, it would be hailed as one of the fucking crowning achievements of gaming. The Switch really holds this fucking thing back so much, and it's really upsetting. But overall, I really do think this game is a must-play. It is so fun, and it is just something that you will constantly be wanting to play this game. Like, even once I'm done here, I'm still going back and playing more of it, which I don't do super often anymore. Usually I don't engage with too much post-game content in most single-player titles, but this one I absolutely will be. And I do plan on at least trying the speedrun, assuming it's not too difficult for someone as dumb as me. So, we'll see. But I love the game. I think it's great. That's about it. So, yep. Huge thanks to ourselves for sponsoring this Moist Meter. Godslap is a comic series written by myself, Jackson, Matt, Danny, and Aubrey Sitterson. It follows the story of a character named Aeus, who's an extremely powerful slapper in a world where slapping is king. Issue 3 just dropped. It's all available at badegg.co, and shit is starting to pop off. Aeus is being hunted by a mysterious foe named Defister, who, after swan diving through a hospital, picks up Aeus' trail and hunts him to the ends of the earth with his sidekick, Olfactor. And also, our newest comic series, Plague Seeker, just came out. Issue 0 is available at badegg.co. It's written entirely by myself and edited by Jackson. It's set in a world 1,000 years after an apocalyptic event known as the Calamity. An asteroid hits Earth, and it brought with it mutations that changed all of its inhabitants. Now the world is infested with things called plagues, and atop the food chain sits 8 great plagues that control the entire world, and only one man stands against them, the Plague Seeker, who has an insatiable appetite to devour those 8 great plagues. So all of this is available at badegg.co, so please check it out. See ya.